Are you listening? Damn.
All right, welcome to AFC North Talk. I am Tony Serino. Today we are going to be recapping the divisional round of the AFC playoffs, including Baltimore and Buffalo, and the Browns and the Chiefs. Let me introduce my co-host today, Sonny from SDG Sports, representing the Baltimore Ravens. Sonny, how are you?
I have been better. I'm ready.
Tough loss. We'll certainly talk about that one. A Lamar Jackson performance that we're definitely going to have to talk about. I'm sure it won't elicit any controversy on this show. Chat will be calm. Everyone's going to be calm. We're going to be calm when we talk about it.
We're going to keep our shirt on.
Yeah, that's right. We also have Ace from New Stripe City. Ace, how are you?
I'm reporting live from the couch, and the couch is full. I am doing great right now. Welcome to my world. Offseason is in full effect.
And then representing the not Cinderella Cleveland Browns is Quincy Carrier from his YouTube channel, Quincy Carrier. Quincy, how are you today?
Turned out we really were Cinderella. Turned out Chad Henne was Cinderella. Told y'all it wasn't Cinderella over here. It was
the slipper did not fit. It did. Yeah, you're right. It fit right on Chad Henne as he used that slipper to run for 14 yards on 3rd and 14.
14 and a half. 14 and a half.
That's right.
9 inches. He's short. MJ Stewart did make the play, technically.
All right. Well, given that the Lamar Jackson conversation is going to derail this entire show, I'm going to wait and talk about that for the second game. We'll start today with Browns and Chiefs. This podcast was very high on the Cleveland Browns going into last week. I think three of us predicted the Browns to win outright. In this game, Quincy was closer than it seemed like it was going to be, especially at the start. The Chiefs started hot in this game. The Browns made it close. Give me your thoughts on a tough Browns loss.
Yeah, I think what this comes down to is that, the Chiefs and the Browns, I don't think either team played their best game this Sunday, but I think the Chiefs just played slightly more of a clean game, slightly better of a game than the Cleveland Browns did. Not that the Browns played a bad game. They definitely showed up in some key moments. It just wasn't the crisp team that we saw against Pittsburgh in that second week that they played them in Pittsburgh or at other times like against Tennessee. And that's the kind of game they needed to play to beat Kansas City. I talked all week about how this game would be won on the line of scrimmage. The Browns uncharacteristically did not decisively win that battle on the offensive side of the ball on the line of scrimmage. They were trading blows with Kansas City. That was not going to be enough to get it done. On the defensive side of the ball, they weren't even trading blows. They almost got flat out dominated by a Kansas City offensive line that was only starting 2 starters. So if you look at some of the things that need to change in the offseason, obviously it starts with the defensive line and everything, but don't let that kind of take it away from what this season has been, which has been ultimately extremely successful for this Cleveland Browns team as a franchise and as an organization. If I think a lot of people thought I was overly optimistic drinking that Browns juice, as they say in the chat, when I said 11-5 and win a playoff game should be the expectation for this Cleveland Browns team. If they were any other team but the Browns, I think people would have expected that out of this team. You wanted to see what Baker Mayfield had going into this season. You now know. I mean, like, the one thing that got proven during that game is that Baker Mayfield is definitely a quarterback who you can win a lot of games with and definitely go as far as you need to with, because I felt like he did a lot to get back in that game. He made some great throws on 3rd and 4th down when the offense and the running game wasn't picking it up against the Chiefs. He did a lot of stuff there to make things happen for that team. So, I know he threw the interception. It ended up being inconsequential because they missed the field goal. Don't get any points off that. And it only took like 30 seconds off the clock on that drive. So, he got lucky there, and it was a bad interception, but how do you bounce back is the most important part, and he bounced back in a way that, other quarterbacks have not this year. So Baker Mayfield, you found out everything you need to know about him. I think Andy Reid knew everything he needed to know about Baker Mayfield because he was not going to give the ball to Baker Mayfield under any circumstances with any time on the clock, and that is a tip of the cap by one of the best coaches in the NFL to say, hey, I'm not trying to give this dude the ball. We seen him do it against Cincinnati with no timeouts. I'm not trying to have that be me. So, Baker Mayfield, you found out about him. He's a franchise quarterback. You found out about your head coach. Now let's build a defense around this core. You got cap space. You got draft picks in the future. You have probably the best future situation of anybody in the North. But as far as that game goes, you need a better game from Myles Garrett. You need to not go be down to your backup guard that just joined the team 6 days ago that Baker Mayfield learned the name of in Pittsburgh at left tackle. You needed things to be in a much better spot. And a Browns team that had been lucky, had found a way to persevere all year, just ran out of their luck at the wrong time. You talk about the Rashard Higgins fumble. Yes, that is a targeting. We all know that's a helmet-to-helmet hit. It did not get called, but things like that happen in the NFL. If you're Rashard, this is why they preach, hey, don't reach for the goal line unless you know you got it, unless you know you can do it and extend. Unless that isn't the case, you shouldn't extend. And it was at a time where they didn't need to score that fast anyway. They had a minute left. He goes down on the 2-yard line. You can drill down some clock, avoid those 3 points that the Chiefs were going to get if they got the ball back with a minute left. And, you would have got it out there 7 points down, 6 points into the first half, and you would have been in a much better situation. But, those small errors, those small, little, tiny, minuscule mistakes in the divisional round against the best team in football, they're going to bite you in the butt. Yeah, you had a great opportunity when Chad Henne went in there and Patrick Mahomes went out. You did not capitalize. You got that interception on that drive. Your line didn't hold up with 8 minutes left to go. You did not capitalize. They're going to think about that all year long, what they can do to make sure they can capitalize in that situation. And the defense is going to think about all they can do to not allow Chad Henne or any quarterback to convert 3rd and longs on them, because that was a problem all game. There were a couple of 3rd and longs that they got in this game, Kansas City, so it wasn't just that one. And it's been a problem all season, 3rd and 4th down for the Cleveland Browns defense. They need to figure out a way to fix that in all season. They have the tools and the resources to do so. And, hopefully they're competent enough to do those things. But as far as this game goes, it's not a great one. But, I think you learned what you needed to out of this in this season. And, we'll see what this team looks like next year if they have Odell, if they have a lot of pieces healthy.
Yeah.
The future is definitely bright, but that does not guarantee that you can come back. I mean, the Jacksonville Jaguars had a bright future. They never got back to that success level. We knew for sure, right, when Carolina lost that Super Bowl game, they definitely be back, right? Cam Newton in his prime, there's no way they wouldn't be back. So you never know if you're going to be back. It's not guaranteed, and I'm not trying to say it like it's guaranteed, but the Browns are in a good enough position that you can see for the next 2 years at the very least, they can be back and hopefully achieve more. But for now, this season, they did everything they need to. Next year, the bar's risen. We're not going to be happy about divisional round exit. We're going to be just as upset as Sonny is over there, because as on schedule as the Browns are right now, you can look at the Ravens and say, hey, they're a little bit behind schedule. They're a team you would have expected to at least see an AFC championship game by now. They have not for the second year in a row, when, I think this year was a little bit more of an uphill battle, but last year you most definitely expected that of this Ravens team. So, you're all on pace, but that does not mean, you're going to be ahead of schedule next year. So they got to do everything they need to in the offseason.
No, you're absolutely right about that. You look back, even talking about the Steelers, right? If you would have told Steeler fans after they had Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown and Ben Roethlisberger, and they were playing in the AFC Championship game against Tom Brady and that young nucleus, and you would say, oh, by the way, these guys are going to play in one more playoff game together, and that's it. Steeler fans would have never believed you, but that's exactly what happens. It's you touched on it there, right? I think the thing that hurts for Browns fans in this game is, yes, they weren't expected to win this game, but boy, did they have the chance to at the end of that game. And I think that's what's got to hurt coming out of this one is, yeah, we weren't expected to be in it, but the fact that we were, and the fact that we did have that chance, it sucks, because going forward, there are no guarantees that this team will be back in that situation. Got a super chat here from the New Mexico Life, $5 super chat. Appreciate that. It says AFC North football division is on the couch, but who's running the couch? Steelers are running the couch, aren't they? We have the best division in football. Hey, we're still the champs, okay? Listen, we're still the AFC North champs. We'll get the banner going.
Oh, yeah, I forgot all about that. I forgot about that.
Right. No, don't forget.
Win the division.
You want me to get the crown? You want me to get the crown? Listen, still got the crown.
It's a very sad crown, Tony. It's a sad crown. It's a pretty sad crown.
It's semi-sad. Yeah, it's semi-sad.
It's like when the Clippers put up their division championship banners.
Yeah, exactly what you bought it for from the dollar store. That's how much it meant.
Well, listen, I'm glad I didn't spend more about it. I'll say that. All right, Sonny. Let me get your thoughts on Cleveland against Kansas City. Your thoughts on that game?
Take the super chat real quick, and then I'll go into it.
Oh, we got one more super chat. Didn't even see that. Rich Lilly, $20 super chat. Appreciate that, Rich. Says Patrick Mahomes has passed the first 2 steps in the concussion protocol. He passed the cognitive testing and the sensory motor response. He needs to pass the final 2 steps to play. Consider him questionable against the Bills. And that's huge. Look, if Mahomes plays, I think that the Chiefs are the heavy favorite in that game. If he does not play, well, then we're seeing Buffalo and Bills Mafia.
Hey, don't underestimate Chad Henne, bro. Not just
okay. All right. Well, listen, you're not wrong, but I don't think he could do that for a 60-minute football game.
We saw when Chad Henne let it fly. What happened?
He came with a lead look.
Nice little arm punt on second down.
Andy Reid has once coached Nick Foles to have one of the best passing games in NFL history. Anything's possible, right, with Andy Reid in that offense. That's all I'll say, right? But yeah, it's not the same as if it's a Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes, right? If you think about this game, the Chiefs started hot. They started quick. They started early. Obviously, they had the extra point miss for quick, but that didn't slow them down, right? It looked like in that first quarter, it's like, damn, I was wrong. Like, I was like, well, I picked the Browns. They ain't looking good right now. But what surprised me in that game, as I was watching that game, was – and Q alluded to this, the trenches. I was disappointed, man. Both sides, like the Chiefs don't have a very good O-line, but they look good during that game. And then when Mahomes started limping, right? Mahomes early in the game started limping. I think at the end of the first quarter, he was already limping. That's not why he left the game, but he started limping. And I remember tweeting about like, yo, if I'm the Browns, I start blitzing him. Not because you might get burned, but you have to hit him so he can then start rushing the passes, right? Start being a little bit off. Well, he left the game, obviously, with a concussion. And that's not what I was meaning. But I said, like, hitting him, but more to him to just lock him down. So the defensive line, I was a little disappointed. But more than that, the offensive line of the Browns, I felt like the Baker had pressure. I was expecting the running game to go off a little bit more. Chubb had a decent game. I'm not saying that Chubb didn't have a decent game, but I was expecting like Chubb to be eclipsing 100 yards and having Hunt being like in the 70-yard-ish. So I was expecting around 180-yard plus between those two because that's how I thought this game was going for the Browns. I thought they were going to control the line of scrimmage. They were going to slow the game down, right? Control the time of possession, and then just basically limit the time that Mahomes was in the field. Now, Mahomes goes out of the game. I'm like, oh, well, here they are. They have the chance. Baker throws the pick, and I was like, oh, dude, this is it. Because when he throws the pick, I mean, they were basically in field goal range at that point. And even though Henne was there, I was like, okay, that doesn't matter. They're going to score. Well, they're gonna kick
Mahomes in that drive.
Yeah, Mahomes is still in.
You're right.
Yeah, so I thought it was
even crazier that they didn't score a touchdown there.
Exactly. So, but they go try to kick the field goal. I stand corrected. They go try to kick the field goal. They miss the field goal. Like, man, God in the universe giving Cleveland the chance. This is the time, right? This is it. They're coming back. They fell short. And look, the Henne scramble, I thought it was a first down. Like, I went back and looked at it, and I thought it was a first down. I was like,
wait, Henne's run? His elbow comes down a little early.
No, yeah, it does come down a little. Yeah, on the TV angle, it does look like he got like 17 yards on that play. But they show like the replay, and it's like it's inches short. It's inches short.
I thought it came a little bit early, and I was like, yo. And then they go for it. I was like, damn, that takes cojones right there, right? That's next level. Like, if I was a Chiefs fan, I was like, what are you doing? But it worked. They got the first down. And look, I thought I know the fumble to the end zone, that was a questionable call because it could have been targeting. I got it. This is why Bill Belichick, he always says, and I'm big on this, be careful when you stretch, right? Yeah, the stretching. As you can see him, Higgins, as he's stretching, he doesn't have a big grip in that ball. It wasn't like he was fully gripped, and then just the hit knocking that, and just unfortunately it went through the end zone, right? Because if the fumble goes into the 1 yard line, you're good. But it went through the end zone, obviously touchback. That was a killer right there, because that would, let's say, at least 3 points, right? If not a touchdown, at least should have been 3 points. There was a lot of chances for Cleveland. The ball obviously didn't bounce their way on a lot of them. And look, it was a tough loss. I think if you're Cleveland, if you're a Browns fan, you need to just come out, say like, yo, we ball against the defending champions. We were in the game. Yes, it wasn't with Patrick Mahomes, because I heard this from some Ravens who were like, oh, yeah, but they did it without Mahomes. And I'm like, yeah, still, defending champions in Arrowhead. I think if you're a Browns fan, you're like, we played good. We were in it. We started slow. I think that's ultimate what got you. Battle the trenches you lost, starting slow against Kansas City, which Kansas City hasn't been starting fast in the last couple of weeks. So those two things kill you, and that probably ultimate give you the L. But if you're a Browns fan, you're like, damn it, it hurts. But look, we have a bright future.
Yeah, one thing I want to defend Rashard Higgins just a little bit there, because I went hard on him a little bit in my. All right, so one, he's done that before. Like it's kind of like a signature thing where he kind of tips the pylon with the ball. Like he has done that. So when he went for it, I actually felt good about it. It wasn't until he got hit in the head and he was obviously knocked out for a second, or it looked like he got knocked out for a quick second, blacked out, as Maurice Pouncey or Mike Marquise, whatever one the Steelers have, likes to say all the time, right? Whenever he does, I blacked out, right? Well, it looked like he blacked out, lost grip of the football there, and that's the reason why I'm like, okay, this is why targeting should be, well, not targeting or helmet-to-helmet contact should be reviewable, right? Because if the cause of the fumble were Nick Sorensen just popping that ball out of his hand like that, I couldn't argue that play. I'd be like, you know what? That's the rule. That's the risk when you stretch the ball out. I agree with you on that. But the fact that the ball only popped out because of an illegal hit, that's what makes it tough, right? That's where it goes. It's hard for me to blame Rashard Higgins, because if he doesn't get hit in the head, he makes that play. You scored a touchdown and he got open to make the play in the first place. And he did have a tremendous game today, on Sunday. So that's the part of it where I'm like, in hindsight, yeah, he should have just went down and stopped the clock. But how can you tell somebody that when they're playing the Chiefs to not score purposely, right? When scoring has been an issue the entire first half. And also it's the ball really only did get jarred loose because he got hit in the head. You can watch the replay.
I got you.
And it got popped loose because he got hit in the head. And the fact that didn't get called is one thing. I get missing that, because both of the refs on that side that are in charge of that call aren't in the position to see that play happen in real time. But what's the harm in having that being a part of the replay, right? If you're going to review it anyways and slow the game down, hey, if you see the crown of the head touch, you don't got to eject them like college, but this is a player safety rule. It exists for a reason. It's not a procedural penalty, right? I get holding and all that because nobody gets hurt because of holding, but targeting gets people hurt, potentially. I don't want to be dramatic, but potentially sent to the hospital at times. Yeah. So that's something that you got to be able to look at, because you can't just let it slide because it happened it's holding or something. That should be reviewable. There's no reason for it not to be, other than, I don't want it to happen to my team in that case, right? If I get a targeting penalty or anything. But it's been a rule for so long in the NFL and college. It's been 10 years we've had the targeting rule. It should be instinctual to anybody playing football. And if that happens, it needs to be reviewed, just like flagrant fouls are reviewable in basketball, right? If Draymond Green tries to kick LeBron in the balls during the game, you get to review that, because it's not a part of the game of basketball. That's not okay to do. It's not a procedural penalty. So that, if you're going to say it's a player safety rule, it should be reviewable. Just like if the Browns had blown up Miko Perman on a punt, even though he never got a punt return all game. But even though if you would have blown up a punt returner and it was debatable whether he fair catch or not, I would say, hey, you should be able to review that. It's a player safety rule. You need to get to the bottom of that and assess that punishment correctly. So I get the thinking Rashard should not stretch for the ball. That's definitely a takeaway. Also, another takeaway is that if the fumble happened only because he got hit in the head, then you should also consider it. Should the targeting be reviewable? And then if the targeting is reviewable, you got to ask the question, is the play reversible because it was targeting? Like, at what point did the targeting happen? And the play, where do you spot the ball at that point? Like, there's a lot of nuances and questions on here.
Yeah.
But, I will say, like, let's keep in mind, he only fumbled because he got hit in the head.
Yeah, so my cue, because I went back. I'm literally watching the play because I'm trying to see what you're saying. And yes, first of all, I'm not big on calling those plays. I'm on the record. I'm not a fan of the personal foul calls on a bang bang play, which is bad. But the problem is, as soon as he catches the ball, again, I'm just frame by frame here. He's turns and he's stumbling already, right? So that was my point. He doesn't have the grip, his
body isn't, but the ball doesn't stumble or move around until he gets hit in the head.
I got you. But my point is, if he catches this, he's running all just full throttle, and he has all his balance with him, and then he can just jump with his balance. He has a better grip. I'm not saying he was just toying with the ball, but as you are unbalanced, right? Your body is not, in my opinion, not right? I agree with you. The hit to the head or to the area to the shoulder head was the one that lost it. But my point is, in those plays, what I would prefer for my players, I'm not saying what he made was a stupid decision. What he made is what you instinctively make, right? But my point is, in those plays, you want them to just basically just take, not to stretch the ball, right? Not to stretch.
Right. I mean, there's a reason why Belichick and Vrabel and a lot of coaches teach guys do not do this, right? Belichick says if you do this, I'll cut you, right? Because yes, you might score a touchdown, but you might fumble the ball out of the end zone and give the other team the ball at the 1 yard line, right? I mean, again,
mostly years ago.
Yeah, it's the craziest rule in sports, right? That the idea that you could be going in, stretching the ball over the goal line for a touchdown, fumble just before, ball goes out of the end zone, and it's the other team's ball at the 20, right? You not only do you not score, the other team gets the ball, and they're going to be trying to score.
The rule.
Yeah, I mean, the rule itself, I don't want to debate the rule, but like the rule itself makes it so that it is not advantageous for you to put the ball over like that. And it's why a lot of coaches teach against it. So it's but like you said, Quincy, I mean, look, it's unfortunate. Like the Steelers had this situation. Xavier Grimble a couple of years back against the Broncos. He got concussed at the goal line, fumbled the ball out of the end zone as he was going over to score. The play sucks, but
that's my thing though. It's like if he had stretched out, right? And I agree with you on the stretch out. It's just like if he was stretching out and Nick whoever it was, Nick Sorensen comes out there and he does a Marlon Humphreys and pops the ball loose or makes an actual play on the football to make it come loose. Hey, bro, that's a good play. I'm not even going to be sitting here mad about it. But it's the fact that it's only because he took advantage of a player safety rule is the reason the ball came out. So it's like, I'm not going to say he's a dirty play, but it was a dirty play that happened. Everybody who sees the play knows that that's helmet to helmet. Sure. And I don't think he intended for that to happen. But if you chop block somebody, and that's the reason that the run breaks open, you don't get the benefit of the run. There's a reason these penalties exist. The only reason that ball got loose is because he hit him in the head. If he gives a normal tackle to Rashard Higgins, he has control of the football enough to make that play. Right. It's just, it wasn't like the ball was coming loose. Boom. Okay, that set it out. It was just, he had it, got knocked out. I don't want to come across like we're blaming Stefanski for this, for not teaching the players. We're blaming Higgins for this. No. It's an unfortunate play, right? Some coaches teach against this because of how lopsided the rule is. But it is, you can't. This is just an unfortunate thing to happen to Cleveland. It sucks. Or bad luck. I can't sit here and blame Rashard Higgins. It's just the rule sucks. The review rule on it sucks, and then the actual refereeing on the actual play. They didn't have the tools to be able to reassess situation like it needed to, because Mike Pierre comes on air right after that play happens and goes, "Well, that's definitely targeting, but they can't do nothing about it."
They can't do it.
So it's there's really nobody to blame. I'm not saying, it's the ref's fault or the Browns got screwed or anything. It's the consequence of the game. But I feel like this should be avoided in future outcomes, right? A game or a touchdown being decided, not just because of the fumble, but because of a helmet-to-helmet hit that can't be reviewed. That's going to be something, just like the pass interference, even though they took that one off of review, even though I understand that. But player safety rules. those should always be reviewable. I think so. If you're going to say something is so important to player safety that you can't do this has to be out the game. It's utmost serious. It's a 15-yard penalty. If you do 2 of these, you get kicked out the game. How is that not reviewable? How is it not important enough to review? That's my question on it.
All right, let me get to some super chats here, and then we'll move on to Ace and his thoughts on this game. First of all, here we have Crazy King 68 says this garbage that Hollywood should not have stretched for a touchdown is dumb as dumb could be. Very obvious. The contact to his head is why he fumbled it.
You missed one. You missed one from Misfit Culture TV.
That's right. Yep. Let me get that one in here as well. For another $5 super chat. Q, amazing season for the Browns, 11-5 plus a playoff win in Pittsburgh. # Corvette. We'll be back. But who do we cheer for the Bills now? We talked about this last week, right? Ace and I were not cheering for the Browns or Ravens this week.
I'm not cheering for the Bills this week. Okay. I mean, it's a great story and all that. I just ain't trying to hear about Josh Allen all year. And I know, man, Sonny ain't trying to hear about Josh Allen all year, right? Like, we not trying to hear nothing about, just the same way the Bills did not get into that game, but it was Baker Mayfield and Lamar. They were like, I'm not trying to hear none of this about Lamar or Baker all year, right? Because you know what's going to happen if Josh Allen gets to the Super Bowl, right? It's going to be, oh, man, the Browns should have picked Josh Allen, even though Baker Mayfield's good. Oh, they messed up. This is like, we're going to have to hear this garbage.
We're going to have to use that.
He played well, and we're still going to have to. It's good. We're going to have to hear this garbage all year from Browns fans who are going to have enough leeway to be like, that don't like Baker Mayfield and be like, we should have still drafted Josh Allen. Baker Mayfield could only. And it's like, I don't want to hear any of these arguments. If Patrick Mahomes wins it 2 times in a row, nothing new is going to be said, right, about football. It's okay. Well, Patrick Mahomes is really good.
Or Brady or Rodgers, none of that. Nothing changes.
Now, I kind of do want Brady to win for evil reasons, right?
No, thank you. Nope, that's the one we don't want. Steeler fans, we don't care. Josh Allen wins it, great. Mahomes wins it, who cares? Aaron Rodgers wins another one, fantastic, don't care. Tom Brady wins another one, no.
Oh, yeah, y'all got to make some new varsity jackets, right?
Not gonna have that one. I think we have one more super chat here. I'm trying to find it.
Broadcast 011. Do you think Stefanski called a bad game, as some fans have been saying online? That was one, and then they have another one from John.
John, I have. Let's do the Stefanski one now. Did Stefanski call a bad game? I've seen this. I was shocked when I saw it. Quincy, the idea that Stefanski and the offense were, that he called it was bad play calling. I don't get that.
Yeah, I don't think it was bad play calling. Look, I get why people are saying it, though, because it just didn't look like what you would expect. You thought Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb were going to get a ton of carries coming into this game. But, Jedrick Wills goes out that first play. You're in there with Kendall Lamb. And the run game just wasn't clicking in the first half. They had like 17 yards. They tried to run the ball out the I formation like they normally do. They could not do it successfully. They tried to do the play action. They could not do it successfully because the Chiefs were playing well on that front. And then he made the adjustments in the second half, get the shotgun run going, and that worked for the third quarter. And then the Chiefs adjusted to that in the fourth quarter and really started shutting that down. So I get the play calling wasn't what people expected or people thought it should be, but you got to factor in success. Also, you're playing with a dude who's never took snaps in his life at left tackle in the NFL as your left tackle. That's going to affect play calling. I know people just like to think offensive line. You just put a fat person out there and he grabs somebody and that's what the play is. No, these are design plays, especially in the Stefanski offense, that you have to trust somebody, especially your left tackle, to be the lead blocker on, which Jedrick Wills is a lot of the times because he's athletic. And it's like when you got Blake Hansen there, he don't know the plays. There's no way you can expect him to know the plays at the very least. It's just what you going to do? Like, it's going to handcuff your play calling. And you had to empty the bag so much on that drive to get the game to 5 points because you had like 3 fourth down conversions you had to make in that drive. You emptied the bag at that point to where like nothing was going to catch you off guard.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Browns offense was ineffective in this game. I mean, they started with a field goal, they punted on the next drive, but then the very next drive after that's the one where they fumble, literally going into the goal into the end zone. So that was a successful drive from a play calling standpoint, right? I mean, he fumbles out the back of the end zone, not a great ending to that drive. And then the second half, it's Baker's pick, and then touchdown, and then the drive that didn't work out. I mean, again, if we're going to say Stefanski called a bad game because they didn't score on that last drive when they were down by 5. Again, I think maybe you can argue the play calling on that drive might not have been good, but I think for the game itself, the Browns offense was moving the ball pretty successfully. Yeah, I think so as well. All right, we got another super chat here from John. I'm happy the Browns lost. Hooday. But why did the Browns not run the ball more? Chiefs couldn't stop the run. Hunt Chubb combined for 19 carries.
I think John mentioned that I kind of answered this
Yeah.
in my last question, but yeah, the offense wasn't working. Like, you can go to the run all you want, but if it's not working, it's not working. And also, they were almost on the verge of getting blown out in the first half here. Like, it wasn't time to run the ball when you're playing Patrick Mahomes and you're down by multiple scores. Like, you got to get the ball in the end zone at the end of the day. Like, all this stuff we talked about before the game about ball control and keeping the ball away from that goes out the window once you take a 10-point lead to the Chiefs on the road. So yeah, I would have loved to see the running game be more or be used more and be more effective. But if it doesn't work and you're not in a situation to run the ball, that's why running the ball has its limits in the NFL, right? That's why you need great quarterbacks in the NFL. It's why Adrian Peterson alone never took the Vikings past the first round, or Barry Sanders, or however far you want to go back with great running backs in the NFL. You can only go so far if you can only run the ball. So you need other things to step up. And to Baker's credit, he did. He sliced down the field on that drive. He found the guy that was going to be open for the touchdown. You just got the worst luck in the world once you got to the end zone right there. Yeah. Just gets fumbled out the back, right. And that would be a completely different game. So it's just – I don't think the offense is at fault here. The defense is somewhat, but I really just say the defensive line just did not win the battle they needed to win, and that was the difference in the game, and that's football. There's nobody really to blame there. You just didn't win your battles.
Yeah. All right, another super chat here. Crystal17, $5 super chat. Josh Allen reminds me of a younger Big Ben. I will say that Big Ben was much better in his second playoff run than Josh Allen has been currently, but we'll get to that when we talk about that.
Not in Big Ben's third year. Oh, no.
Big Ben won a Super Bowl in a second. No. Big Ben won a Super Bowl in the second year. He was much better in that playoff run. Much better in that playoff run than Josh Allen has been so far. Okay, in the divisional round and the championship round, Ben was amazing. Now we were going to think about the Super Bowl, and Ben was bad in the Super Bowl. We haven't seen Josh Allen play in the Super Bowl yet.
Josh Allen already got more MVP votes than Ben did in his whole career just from this season.
No, in this playoff run, Josh Allen has been bad in this playoff run. Big Ben was good in the first two games of that playoff run. Go back and watch the tape. Ben was Ben against the Colts.
Josh Allen has not been good in neither game.
I think people say that Tony reminds them of a younger Big Ben. It's because he's so big and he's hard to just get down.
I'm getting a little big here. Let me get my little big in. I'll have a couple more left for Big Ben before he retires.
Tony, you know what you're setting up, right? Every time we badmouth a quarterback on this show, what has happened? So now Josh Allen is going to throw for 500 yards, outgun Patrick Mahomes, and be the talk of the league. This is what's going to happen now. All right. And honestly, at this point, he is better than a young Big Ben, though. He throws less interceptions, and that's amazing to say.
No, not yet. Let's see him win an AFC Championship game. Remember, Ben went out in his second year. Ben went out and just outgunned and just did the finger guns and everything against the Broncos. Threw for like 350 yards in that game.
Bro, what kind of buzz?
Do you guys remember the finger guns?
I don't want to remember that.
You can't say he's better than Ben until he makes the Super Bowl. What kind of buzz?
And it's a nice thing to reminisce on. All right, we got some more super chats to get here. Tim Broski, $5 super chat. Shout out to my Cleveland peeps. Here's hoping for a defense heavy draft. Bittersweet feelings about keeping Woods. Quincy, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there were times where I thought Joe Woods has been the problem on the defensive side of the ball. But those problems, to his credit, right, when I was pissed off about the Jets game, and I was like, these things better get fixed for the next 2 weeks. Well, they did. Like, the things that were the issues that I thought were coaching issues were like the running into each other constantly against the Jets, the miscommunication, the constant misalignment. Not that the Jets were beating them in that game, not because they were better, just because they were there, right? And the Browns weren't. The Browns refused to be in position in that game, right? That was the issue with Joe Woods. And that's where I was like, if that doesn't get fixed, the D coordinator does have to get fired, right? But the last three games they played in, it ain't been Joe Woods, right? Against Pittsburgh the first time. Like, it's just, your safeties are slow as dirt. They're throwing deep on you. That's going to happen. Chase Claypool was able to get open. The next game against Pittsburgh, are there really any complaints about the defensive philosophy going into that game, considering you were up 28-0? I get that Pittsburgh came back, but we know this defense kind of sucks. Like, it does. It kind of sucks. So, yeah, that was going to happen. It's happened all year. And against the Chiefs, like, they made some huge plays in this game defensively that kept you. The interception gave you a chance to win that game. And that stop on that field goal drive that was almost obviously going to be a field goal against Patrick Mahomes in a short field, that's amazing that they were able to get that stop there.
That was the biggest stop of the game. Yeah, after the Baker interception, huge stop.
That was huge that they were able, because I thought they were done at that point, right? So the defense held up as well as you could have wished they could have held up against Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, the 3rd and 15 stuff happened, but that's not on Joe Woods. That's on the defensive line, just completely breaking contain, just trying to go all out for a blitz. Well, not a blitz because they didn't send anybody extra, but going all out to get the quarterback on that 4-vert play, and they just could not get home. And like they did all game, they did not win that battle. And when you lose the battle, sometimes you leave the lane wide open for Chad freaking Henne. Dude, I legitimately was like, yo, is that really Chad Henne from Michigan? Like 2005, Chad Henne with Mike Hart and the Michigan Wolverines? Like, he's still in the league? That Chad Henne? Didn't even know he was in the league still. But hey, when you leave it open like that, and when the Browns are obviously going to be as worried about the weapons the Chiefs have, hey, the offensive line made the play on that one. Defensive line didn't. Is that on Joe Woods? No, that's on that's on just the lack of depth that the defensive line has had to have harped on all season.
Another one here from the Trib, $5. Appreciate that. Trib says, how Q broke down the play calling situation is how I now look at Greg Roman, who's the offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. I think the offense has trust issues. My position on him has softened. We'll talk a lot more about that game here in a second as we get to Ravens and Bills. I'm interested to see here, Sonny, your thoughts on Greg Roman, because I know a lot of people, of course, I have watched a lot of Ravens stuff afterwards, as I do after a Ravens loss. A lot of different thoughts about the coaching staff and where that organization.
We have 2 more super chats.
Yeah.
My boy Joe was surprisingly calm in his stream. When that pick six happened, I was like, "Ooh, let me jump to Joe's stream." And he was like, "You know what, guys, we lost." Like, he was just calm about it. No, he didn't tear it down like I thought.
That's right. And I was wondering, like, did he put everything on Velcro now so he could easily rip it off, or you know what I mean? Like, but he was. Yeah, you're right. He was very calm, and I thought I'll talk about his analysis. I thought his analysis after the game was on point.
Also, I want to give a shout out to Engraven, because you got to love Engraven's positivity, right? Because when they got Tyler Huntley out there, he's like, throw them twos up in the chat, y'all. Throw them twos up. We got these twos up in here, and they driving down the field. And I think like Tyler Huntley turns the ball over. He's like, oh, well, yeah, that's it, man.
All right, we got Soul Train. $10 super chat here. I think it's unfair to compare the QBs if the Bills win. Allen had a solid OC for 3 years with options to throw to in Diggs, John Brown, Cole Beasley, Gabe Davis, and Dawson Knox. I think
fair. It's not. Ain't nobody gonna be fair about this. What if anybody ever been fair about it? You think people about to be fair about Lamar Jackson at that game he had in Buffalo? You think people are gonna be, hey guys, he did win the MVP a couple of years ago. He is a good quarter. No, they're gonna be people who want both Lamar Jackson and Greg Roman fired. Why? Because
I've heard Harbaugh fired. I've heard Harbaugh fired a lot.
Every year.
They wanted Harbaugh fired before they had Lamar Jackson. It's only because of Lamar Jackson that Harbaugh is still there. And now if Lamar Jackson just whittles a little bit, they're like, ooh, we coming for you, John. Even though John's probably the best coach they've ever had in franchise history. But there are still people who want Tomlin fired. There are people who think Stefanski should give up play calling after this playoff game. No, the answer is nobody's going to be fair, because we are entering the off season. This is the silly season, bro. This is where Zach Wilson is going to be a top 5 pick for no reason.
For very good reason, actually. He's very good. No, I think we are, but we're also in that moment where
to go before Devontae. What's the dude who won the Heisman? Like, this is where all the goofy stuff happens, bro. Nothing's going to make sense.
Well, we're also in that period where the emotions are very, very raw right now, right? You have once we get to like February, March, April, that's when things start to calm down and we start to have level heads. But right now, you just want someone to blame. You want someone to point the finger at. Yeah. All right. Codex for all raised a $5 super chat here. Says, for all 4 of you, I know it's way early, but how confident are you heading into next season? Ace, how confident are you heading into the season for the Bengals?
I'm pretty confident because the Bengals are in a position with Joe Burrow coming back. They got a top 5 pick. They got some cap space. There's some guys that they're going to move on from. So obviously I'm not too happy about the Zach Taylor pick, but we did already bring back Frank Pollock. So he was a guy that in 2017 was able to use lemons and get lemonade out of it with this offensive line. So I think that was a good hire. And then even though Zach Taylor is back, I'm assuming that he's only got 1 season left. So with that being the position that we're in, I'll take that, and we'll have to see how things play out in free agency. But right now, I'm good with where we're at. I just want to see where we go going forward. Still have to see how free agency plays out. Still have to see how the draft plays out. But so far, so good.
Man, you're gonna be heartbroken when Zach Taylor get that 5-year extension after you go 7-9 next year. Oh, you're gonna be heartbroken.
I mean, Quincy, how about you? You said you were pretty confident out of this
I
game, right?
feel pretty good about the situation. Oh, honestly, I do think the Bengals are in a good situation. They just got a coaching loophole they need to get through. But the problem is, the better that team gets, the less opportunity they're going to have to fire that coach, right? I think this was the year to fire that coach. And I think they're kind of stuck with the dude. And I don't think the dude's that good. I think he has some good things about him, some things he can do well. But I think ultimately, he's just not good. But he can grow into the role and be better or whatever. I don't know. I think the Browns are in a good spot. The Ravens are in a decent spot. They're not in like a terrible, like, oh my God, you should panic spot, but they're in a little bit of a rough spot.
They're in a weird spot. Very weird.
Yeah, they're in a weird spot because you're still gonna have to extend Lamar. Yeah. You got some pieces coming up. You already gave a lot of money out to Ronnie Stanley and Marlon Humphreys and Marcus Peters. So now that you've invested all that on the defense, how much money are you gonna have to really get a good wide receiver like a Juju or AJ Green? Like, these are gonna be interesting things. And obviously the Steelers, of the 4 teams are probably in the worst situation because of the cap. They got a decent draft pick this year because they went out in the first round. But
we're not bad, not terrible.
Other than that, it's like, ooh, man, like you're gonna have to let go of a lot of solid role players on that defense, a lot of solid role players on the offense. So yeah, you're gonna have the core guys, but
Cam
Hayward looked old at the end of the season. That's a problem.
Yeah. Well, the whole defense looked bad. Though.
Yeah. So
I don't know if be more confident or less, but the whole defense was bad, not just Cam.
Like you might bring Joe Hayden back, you might not. Either way, Joe Hayden's getting old now, and he's been injured a lot. So there's a lot to be concerned about if you're Pittsburgh. Not anything they can't dig a decent season out. But one thing I did mention with Tony offline is you got a first place schedule next year, which means you're playing Chiefs and the Bills. And
if it's 17 games and they have to do the interconference thing, it's the Seahawks as well. So
everybody to play the Chiefs next year, right?
Yeah, we play the West.
We play NFC West, so it's like
it's Buffalo and
Tennessee.
Yeah.
So they get the first place schedule, so that's not going to be great for them.
Sonny, how about you? How do you feel about the Ravens right now?
I mean, I feel good. The question for me, and we'll see in this offseason, is how much we invest in the offense. This is the year, right, that the Ravens can probably go all in before Lamar's big contract kicks in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
So they can definitely go all in and invest in the offense. This also means that outside rushers, we're probably going to go into the offseason with no outside rushers, right? Yannick Ngakoue, Judon, and all the other ones are going to be out. So it's going to be interesting on that side of the defense. The Ravens, if they keep with their motto of blitzing a lot, then you can get away with subpar outside rushers. All right. But you have to go and invest on the offense because right now the investment is all on defense and none on the offense. So, but for the most part, look, you have a young quarterback still on ascending, still playing real good, pushing your team to, playoffs. The defense just ball against one of the top offensive teams. So, yeah, I feel optimistic. I think this team is back and battling for the AFC North title and, for a possible chance to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. For me, look, obviously I can't be as confident as Steeler fans were going into this season because we're going to lose a bunch of pieces. I don't think the cap situation is as bad as people think it is, but it's not a good cap situation. And so, the Steelers are going to lose a lot of pieces. They have a ton to work on. They have offensive line, running back, right? I think the one thing you can be slightly excited about, and I might be a little excited about it here with my new Canada. Yeah, is that they have a new offensive coordinator. And we're going to find out how much of what was wrong with the offense was just a philosophy coaching problem type thing. So that's one thing you can be somewhat confident, but clearly you shouldn't be confident if you're a Steeler fan because they're going to lose a bunch of pieces and they don't have the money to get them back in one offseason. All right, one more super chat here. Squirtle Turtle says, my friend thinks Baker Mayfield is going to hold the Browns back. He keeps comparing him to 2015 Andy Dalton. What do you guys think? Burrow. I see. This is a weird one to me because Baker Mayfield won a playoff game. Look, no offense to Andy Dalton.
Not just a playoff game. He won a playoff game in prime time. The Andy Dalton comparisons are over against the Steelers. Like it's a wrap, dog. Like Andy Dalton's never sniffed that in his entire career. Don't. We're over the Baker Mayfield. Is he just a better version of Andy Dalton? No, we're past that conversation. Baker Mayfield, much better already accomplished more in 3 years than Andy Dalton had in like all those years he went to the playoffs. No disrespect to Bengals fans, but like, come on, man. Like, has Andy Dalton won that primetime game? Has he won it against the Steelers? Nah, the closest you came was when you had AJ McCarron out there.
Oh my God, AJ McCarron, forgot about him. You're right.
Actually, Ryan Finley, the closest they came was this year. Ryan Finley did it. So
yeah, Ryan Finley, the other redhead dudes on the roster, did it before Andy, which is wild because Andy is much better than those two guys.
All right, I don't know how we ended up on this conversation about how many times the Bengals have beaten the Steelers. I don't like it. Let's instead get Ace's thoughts on Browns and Chiefs.
So Browns Chiefs, I was the only one that picked the Chiefs, but I did say it was going to be a close game. I think from the Browns perspective, for you, just looking at the total picture, for you to hold the Kansas City Chiefs to 22 points, like with Pat Mahomes going out in the third quarter, I think that's a pretty good sign to the defense. Like I know Browns fans have been criticizing your defense for the most part of the season, but you also have to remember, and I noticed this too, Myles Garrett wasn't playing most of that game. He was battling injuries. I think he had like a hip injury and something else. So he was only in on pass rush downs, and that completely affected him, right? Because it's Myles Garrett. But when he was in, he was able to get the sack when it mattered. The thing about this game, I think like you guys said, the run game didn't show up like we expected it to, right? And I think when you're talking about the Browns and you're talking about the Ravens, which we're going to get to that, there are high standards for what is considered them running the ball, right? So I think we expected Nick Chubb didn't have a bad game. Kareem Hunt didn't have a bad game, but we expected more than what we got from them. And it seemed like Kansas City kind of focused on that aspect of it. But the biggest thing here to me was that the Browns did have a chance in this game. Like when Pat Mahomes goes out of that game, all of like the momentum in the game opens up for the Browns. And you're thinking any given Sunday because people came into this game not really giving the Browns a chance, right? And the way that we said that they would be in this game wasn't working. Like the run game wasn't working and stuff like that. So we were just expecting, especially with that bad luck that they had with the fumble there, which I don't agree with. I mean, it can go. The rules are the rules. That's the NFL. They're always screwing teams every year in the postseason with a rule that doesn't make sense. That's pretty much the standard for the NFL. But that play changed the game. So I can understand why people are saying, you should have thrown a flag on that player, this and that, because that did change the game. We can't sit here and act like it didn't because the Browns were about to score on that drive. So that was game changing, right? And you look at the final score, how can you not say that play didn't change the game? But the issue I have is that in the fourth quarter, after they got that interception, they didn't do anything with it. The offense needed to go down. And I think I heard Tony Romo say this. This is the biggest drive of Baker Mayfield's career right here. Because once they got that ball back, Baker and that offense had to go down the field and score in this game because then all the pressure would be on the Chiefs, right? Because they would be trying to use someone like Chad Henne, who had just thrown an interception, to kind of seal this game. And when the Browns didn't convert after that, I feel like that kind of killed them because then it got down to Andy Reid and why he's so great. Because, yes, we have Pat Mahomes and all of that, but people have to also remember that you have Andy Reid. And Andy Reid literally, and it's nothing against Stefanski. This is a first-year head coach. I think he was, in my opinion, I think he should have been in the running for Coach of the Year. But anybody in that situation, I don't care who it is, unless you're Bill Belichick, unless you're one of these elite coaches, you're going to have to play chess with Andy Reid. And I think that the coach, Stefanski, not to get on him, he was kind of playing checkers. And Andy Reid did things and used Chad Henne in creative ways for them to help seal that game. But I still think the Browns played good. I mean, to hold the Chiefs to 22 total points, I think that was good. The only thing that I was disappointed about was that the offense didn't do more when it mattered. But the Browns can be glad that they had the season that they had because, I've been on the other side of going against the Chiefs. The Chiefs hung like 50 on the Bengals defense like 2 years ago. That's a bad defense. Like they were literally getting whatever. And even though they only put up 22, that was still with Travis Kelce getting off, which is going to happen. I mean, it's Travis Kelce. This guy does that to everybody. That was with Tyreek Hill getting off. I mean, he does that to everyone. But the only thing that surprised me was that the running back for the Chiefs got off. And it wasn't any
Darrell Williams.
Darrell Williams. That was very surprising to me. I mean, but at the end of the day, I just felt like when Henny was in there, that was like the biggest break for any NFL team if you're going against the Chiefs. And they took advantage and they got the interception, but they just didn't go back and get the points after that, which they crucially needed at that point in the game. And so to me, it just sucks from that standpoint because it's like, man, like it's almost like you kind of got like a bonus life or something like that, and you're getting ready to like take out the final boss, and then it's just like, nope. So for me, like I think the Browns played an impressive game. I think that they definitely, I think, met the standards for what people kind of set for this team, right? This was a building block. You went to the playoffs. You went against the Chiefs. But the only thing is you kind of saw that once Mahomes started kind of picking up steam, and I really don't even want to say picking up steam because once they had that play call that happened where it would have made this game so much closer, that was when Mahomes came back and got the 19-3. So the game was still close. But once that happened, that just changed the trajectory of the game. And you almost kind of wonder, what if would have happened. And that's going to be one of the what ifs for them. But there's also the Bills that are still left. There's the Kansas City Chiefs. So you can't be mad that you lost to the Chiefs because anybody in the playoffs right now, I think if the Chiefs went against any of those teams that we started this against, I think they'd be favored against every one of those teams. I don't care if it's the Bills. I don't care if it's whoever. They would have been favored over any team because they are the champs for a reason. But that did open the door for them. But Cleveland, they played a good game. I just wish that they would have, kind of took advantage of the Chad Henne situation a little bit more. But outside of that, you don't have anything to be upset about. I mean, you went into that game not thinking that you were going to win. Like most people didn't have you winning that game, and you put up a pretty good effort against them. And everybody was watching that game until the end of the game. Like everybody was on the edge of their seats thinking, are the Browns gonna take them out? I know I was thinking that when I saw that interception and all of that stuff, like at the end. And Chad Henne, I was like, oh, he's going to be rattled because he just threw that interception. And it was Andy Reid. It was Andy Reid because everyone's saying anything is possible. Henne looked like he was off that Henne when he threw that interception too. He let it go. So we'll see. It'll be a shame if Pat Mahomes isn't cleared this week because I hate games like that where you either lose a major player and they go against that's not going to be fair. Like Chad Henne with the Chiefs is not the same Chiefs. So, we'll see what happens next week. I think that the Browns had a good effort. I think they had a good season. They have some more to build on. And I think there's only one way up for them, and that's up.
Yeah, and also Browns fans that are upset about not winning. I get it, but also remember, you're probably starting Blake Hance at left tackle versus the Bills. If you would have won that game, that was gonna be a smackdown. Like that one, you can exist for 3 quarters with Blake Hance as your left tackle in the middle of a game, but let the Bills have tape on Blake Hance at left tackle. Yeah, dog, that ain't going. Jerry Hughes gonna look like Myles Garrett again. Okay, so you know what I mean.
All right, we got this is super chat from Zondor Zendry. Let's say 250. Appreciate that. He says cap estimated at 180 million per PFT. Preview cuts. If this, by the way, we'll just talk about the Steelers real quick because I think the Steelers are the only team that has to cut people.
Oh, we're gonna make some cuts. We're definitely making some cuts as well.
Ravens already started. 180.
That's right. The Ravens did already start. 180 would not be great for the Steelers. There was a report from PFT about a month ago that said it was going to be around 195. 195 is a much better number for the Steelers. They can get under the cap at 195 easily. 180 makes it a little tougher for them. Probably Joe Hayden, I think, is the big cut that you would talk about in Pittsburgh.
That'd be so hilarious because he's been so mad at Cleveland for cutting him for that exact reason.
Yeah. Well,
he about to find out. It's a business, bro.
I mean, the other thing happens is Ben retires, and then all of a sudden, that money's freed up again. So
he's not doing that.
40.
Come on, it's $41 million.
It's 19 is the number that he'd be giving up because 41 is the cap hit. 19 is his salary for the season.
I'm not giving up $19 million.
Yeah.
He's got to redeem himself. That's what he's thinking.
The Ben redemption tour, him and Canada coming together. I mean, my goodness.
I mean, we've seen what these redemption tours end up like. It looks a lot like Drew Brees last night.
Yeah.
That's okay. Listen, if the Steelers,
I'm here for it.
make
Pay him
the
that
playoffs
19
again,
million to throw picks.
that's fine. If he makes the playoffs, like honestly, if the Steelers,
No,
if he
I'm not
comes
even
back
talking
and
about
makes
like
the
into
playoffs,
the like it'll be a
fine.
miracle if they make the playoffs next year with, or at least like the second round with that roster like being as cut downs are going to be with like that will be like coach of the year like if Mike Tomlin can do it. And he's good enough to do it.
Yeah, he might be able to. We'll see.
But the offensive line has been like an issue. You're not going to have Marquise Pouncey. Who are you going to draft to replace Marquise Pouncey?
Right.
Yeah, I mean you already struggled after the Castro went. Like, you gotta,
Bud Dupree. I don't know.
you going to re-sign Eric Ebron at tight end? Like what's best?
Not resign. He's under contract. We got 2018 Eric Ebron coming back.
Oh man, you got one more year, Ebron.
If this was Madden, he'd be like salary cap off.
Ebron is a roller coaster, up and down, right? Every year, up and down. Well, this is mostly a down year. This is mostly a down year. He's due. Like Miles Garrett said,
an up year for Eric Ebron, though. Like,
let's look an up year. I don't know
that
that
was a medium year. Like this is definitely not the floor for Eric Ebron.
Up year or down year for Eric Ebron?
I'm just saying, like y'all talk about the drops, like that's Eric Ebron every year. Even 2018, Eric Ebron was out there dropping it a lot. I'm just saying, like the Eric Ebron y'all got. I was surprised. He looked pretty good at times. He was hurling dudes
early in the year, but then he fell off, and the majority of the year he was bad. So
that's Eric Ebron. That's Eric Ebron. Even when
down year for Ebron, he's still like
Miles Garrett. Hey, we can't spare these Ravens fans now. We can't spare these Ravens fans about this Bills game.
All right, let's zoom through these super chats, and then we'll get to that Ravens game. All right, Ronald says, Houday, Tony, Matt Filer, or Zach Banner, which offensive lineman can we steal from you? Filer will definitely be gone. Banner's coming off of an ACL. Don't know that there's going to be a big market for him. I think the Steelers are hoping to get him back cheap in the offseason. Another one here from Rich, a $20 super chat, says Ravens have released Mark Ingram, Robert Griffin III, Devontae Harris, and DeAnthony Thomas, who was a COVID opt-out, and also Tremont Williams. No cognitive or sensitive impairments for Lamar during evaluation. Big trust. All right, that's it. Let's get to that game. The Baltimore Ravens lose to the Buffalo Bills 17-3. Sonny, your thoughts on the loss?
So this game, like Nuvo at the end of the game, I think my wife's like, man, you're very calm. You're not cussing. You're not just, F this, F that. I said, well, as soon as Lamar went off, I had a quarter to cool down, right? As soon as Lamar went down, I was like, okay, it's done. And also that pick six for me was deflating. Like as soon as that pick six happened, I was like, shit. Because the reality is this was a defensive struggle game. Tucker missing 2 field goals. That game was going to be weird. Lamar only had the ball for a quarter in favor of the win. Against the win, everybody was missing throws. Lamar was okay. Lamar wasn't great, but I think people are also saying that, oh my God, this dude is terrible. I've seen people saying like, oh, we need to cut him or we need to trade him or blah, blah, blah. I think you need to just, as Tony was saying, the emotions get raw. You need to just slow it down. I think the Ravens, the problem was, and I had a podcast with a Bills fan before the game, a couple of days before the game, and he was saying like, oh, we're just going to zone you out. And I said, okay, if you guys zone defense out, where you're going to see is for us is to get around 4 to 5 yards a clip, 3 to 5. We're not going to be able to, have a lot of explosive runs, but I'm okay if we can move the ball between 3 and 5 yards a clip. And that's roughly what was happening, right? The Bills and the Ravens first quarter ends up 3-3. Justin Tucker missing 2 field goals. They're kicking missing 1 field goal. You go to halftime, you're 3-3. Neither quarterback is killing it. Both quarterbacks had decent throws, especially, again, when you were in favor of the win. That's in the second quarter where Lamar had the one decent. Well, he had a couple of decent completions in that second quarter. First quarter was non-existent. And if you see that game also, in that first quarter, the Ravens were basically, we ain't going to throw because this wind is swirling. We ain't going to throw. And then in the second quarter, you can see that the Ravens trying to throw a little bit more, right? So again, 3-3, 2 missed field goals. And I went to halftime like, you know what, guys? I like where we are. Like if you go to my IG, you can see like, I like where we are. And why? Well, you're missing 2 field goals and you're tied with a high-power offense. Everybody's like, oh, the Bills are a high-power offense, right? So you're tied. Okay, but you're also winning the time of possession. So eventually that defense is going to start worrying themselves out. I think we had the ball like 14 minutes versus 8 or something like that in the first half. So I like our chances. They come out of the first half, and they have the only great drive that they had in the whole game, right? They marched down the field, they scored a touchdown. I'm like, okay, well now our offense needs to do the same thing, right? They need to come and just roll and score. And they were doing it different from them. We were just running it down, right? We were running it down, and Lamar throws a pick, right? And that literally, the Bills have the one possession in the third quarter, and the Ravens had one possession in the third quarter. That was it. That third quarter was it. It was because the Ravens was just shooing the clock out. And that pick six was critical because the same thing, that time of possession is wearing that defense down, in my opinion. And you're going to the fourth quarter with Lamar having the win in his favor, right? And then Josh Allen going against his throwing. So I like my chances. But the pick six, obviously, it was a horrible throw. He stared Andrews the whole way. I thought as he was staring down, there was a receiver on the left side that he might have just go to the receiver and try to bait the corner in. Nope, that didn't happen. He threw the receiver down. Hollywood had a decent game. I think the running backs, again, not typical of Ravens because usually it's 80, 100 yards for the running backs. Obviously, they both got 42. The fourth quarter, they didn't want to run that much. They wanted to try to throw with Huntley. But yeah, that pick six was a killer, right? Before that was 10-3. We were driving. You would think maybe 3 points there because it was going to be a very short field goal for Tucker. Even if we don't complete it, 10-6 going to the fourth quarter. Defense wearing down for Buffalo. Our defense still very fresh, still playing good because even the next possession for Buffalo, we still were playing good. Next possession, we get the ball. Lamar goes for the concussion. I see people saying that Lamar was making an injury. Nah. If you go back to that play, you see how his head bounces out. And as soon as he bounces out, he grabs his helmet. As soon as his head bounces, he grabs his helmet like shit. I said, like, this is going to be a concussion. The question is, can he come back right away, right? Well, he couldn't. He didn't pass the concussion protocol. Again, for all of you guys, they're like, well, he's faking it. The Ravens are trying to save face in concussion protocol. It's an independent doctor by the NFL. They need to clear him before he goes. The kid that came in, Huntley, look, he had an opportunity. Hollywood Brown had a hell of a he had a hell of a route. He fake out, went out, right? He was wide open. I mean, he was wide open. That is on the quarter that the win is in your favor. Obviously, he put too much air into it. The ball sailed out. And it went. For the people calling for Greg Roman job, to be honest, I don't know. Greg Roman, in my opinion, and I haven't gone and watched all 22, and I'll be real. Every time the Ravens get eliminated, that game I can't watch it again. It is hard for me. Like the next day, I feel like the sadness upon me. So
I've watched it like 3 or 4 times already.
No, I can't go watching the game again. But for the most part, I cannot say like, oh my God, the gameplay was horrible. Think about the conditions. Think about how they were doing it. I thought this Ravens, if there's no pick six, I think the Ravens were in the game and potentially could have won the game. The pick six completely changed the game. It was a bad throw by Lamar. The Ravens need to go to this offseason to give him more weapons. It has to be, right? We talk about we talk about Baker Mayfield, right? And how Baker Mayfield progressed. Well, the Ravens and Browns basically have their investments in the opposite sides of the field. Ravens' investments is on the defensive side. The Browns' investments on the offensive side. So the Ravens need to start making some of the investments on the offensive side. So you can see with Lamar's growth, right? They need to get a wide receiver. Hollywood Brown cannot be your only wide receiver that is dependable, and he's not even that dependable. We saw all the drops, and you need another tight end, right? O-line, we'll see, right? We had a lot of injuries throughout the year, and the O-line, especially losing your left tackle, top left tackle. So we'll see with all that. But I think the Ravens were in the game. The pick six, obviously, is on Lamar. That was it. That was the game. Because after that, the game plan changed completely, and obviously, the next drive, Lamar gets injured. So, I mean, it was disappointing. I'm not going to lie. Why I was not fuming was because I had a quarter of just cooling myself down when Huntley came in. I knew what was going to happen. So I think this team has the potential to come back and make another run. But as soon as your quarterback gets paid, your window gets smaller. You have less opportunities for mistakes. So we will see. Shout out to the Bills at the end of the game. They won the game, so we'll see.
I want to circle back to that comment about Baker Mayfield and the Browns, but I don't want to be yet. So let's go to Ace. Your thoughts on this game?
So I just want it to be stated here that we finally have Sonny admitting that the Ravens do need to get some receivers and do need to spend and get one in there. But one thing,
receivers last before the season started, right? I did rank my receivers bottom of the AFC North.
Yeah, but you guys were kind of confident with those receivers. You guys,
I would give Sonny. I would give credit. Remember, he's always been the guy who wants a 50-50 guy. Yeah. He wants the Des Bryant type.
He wanted Mike Williams. He's wanted the bigger receiver for a while.
I remember he said he didn't want AB.
Did not want AB.
I think AB would have done something. That's all I'm going to say. But when you look at this game, it was a disappointment. I don't see how you couldn't see it. This is as a disappointment. I think even for me as a Bengals fan watching this game, me putting money on this game, thinking that the Ravens were going to come in here and beat the Bills simply because the Bills had a weak run defense, it was a huge disappointment. Because I don't care what Lamar Jackson would have done if he wouldn't have gone out of that game. This Bills defense was prepared for him, and that was apparent throughout the game. They were ready for the scrambles. They were ready for all kinds of things. I was actually shocked that the Bills defense played that good because no one out here was talking about how good the Bills defense was going into the game. The fact that they were able to do what they did against the Ravens was definitely impressive. But I think when you look at this game, it's a very weird game because like Sonny said, the Ravens had the time of possession by 11 minutes. It's just crazy. They had 340 total yards. They had more yards than the Bills, who had 220. I mean, they literally had almost in every statistic category, if you're talking about rushing yards, passing yards, they had more. But you know what they didn't have more of? Points. And it was a weird game because when you saw when Justin Tucker went out and missed field goals, you were like, hold on, Justin Tucker is human? He's missing field goals? What is going on?
Completely washed. Caught him.
That was the sign right there. And I think, like Sonny said, he's been talking about the offensive line. They were letting Jerry Hughes and those guys get to him. 4 sacks allowed. They were only able to get 2. Obviously, they didn't fumble from the Bills side. The Bills didn't turn the ball over. That was huge in the game. But when you really look at it, the main takeaway that I got, if you're just looking at just the stat box, the difference in this game for the Bills and for the Ravens, the Bills have a number 1 wide receiver. Stephon Diggs was making plays when it mattered. And it was weird for me because I thought that the Ravens were going to put Marlon Humphrey on Stephon Diggs the majority of the game. I saw plays where he was getting cooked by Jimmy Smith, and I'm like, there's no way that I'm putting Jimmy Smith on Stephon Diggs, especially when it counts. And so I understand that they wanted to stop Cole Beasley and stuff like that, but Stephon Diggs is one of the best receivers in the NFL. That is Josh Allen's bread and butter. If you wanted to stop Josh Allen in this passing offense, you had to concentrate more on Diggs. But Diggs is going to get his. That was the difference to me in this game. Of course, they got the pick 6 and stuff like that. But when they needed to play and they needed to score, Stephon Diggs was there for them. And I think that this sends a loud message to the Ravens because for this Ravens offense to go out and score 3 points, I don't care if it's an injury. I don't care what it is. They should have scored more than 3 points in a playoff game, in a game of this magnitude against a team like the Bills. For them to go out and score 3 points, I would have never guessed that. Like if you would have told me the over and under for this game was going to be under 20, I wouldn't have believed you. There's no way that I would have believed that. And there's no way that I would have believed that the Ravens would have scored 3 points in this game in totality. That's just my opinion. But outside of that, like Sonny said, when Lamar went out, of course, the game is pretty much over. But I just didn't see the Ravens really threatening the Bills in that game, especially once the third quarter and stuff took off. Like, it really wasn't a huge threat. Like, I was telling Bills fans, Lamar's about to take off on you. There's no way that you can stop these guys. And they were stopping them. I mean, point blank period. They stopped the Ravens. They had 3 points. They stopped them. So either way you cut it, they stopped the Baltimore Ravens.
Let me say this. You say that they stopped the Ravens. The reality is It was 3-3 at halftime. They just scored on the one drive on the third quarter, and we were driving, right? When Lamar threw that pick, it was first or third and goal on the 9, right?
Right, but Lamar threw the pick. They weren't worried. They were not worried about Lamar Jackson. When teams play against the Ravens, generally you're worried about Lamar Jackson. They didn't strike me as a team. They seemed like they had a plan. Like when Lamar was making those runs, when he was doing all of these things, they were ready for it. Like I didn't expect that.
Yeah, the plan was the same as every team that beats the Lamar is, which is we're going to put the ball in Lamar's hands and we're going to watch things go well for us.
Okay, so my point to you,
that's where Tony's going today.
Yeah,
am I wrong? Am I wrong? Like that?
But it's not that easy. Sometimes it's not that easy. Sometimes Lamar, let Lamar hit you with his legs. Right. He's going off for an 80-yard touchdown. They were ready for him. With those zones and stuff, they were ready for him.
Let's let Ace finish his points, though. Let's let Ace finish his points.
All I'm saying is that they were ready for it. I expected more from the Ravens coming out of there. I mean, they did a great job against Josh Allen. We all expected that. I mean, the Ravens have one of the best defenses and secondaries in football. But when it came to the offensive side of the ball, that's where the Bills were able to do things. But I was more impressed with the Bills' defense than I was the offense. And I don't think anybody would have had that coming into the game. Like if we fast forward and go back in a time machine, no one was saying that the Bills' defense was going to be a factor in this game. And like they did in that game, they definitely were a factor.
All right, let me get my piece out before Tony completely derails.
Well, okay, we do have to get super chats. I don't want to fall too far behind on super chats. Let me just get one in real quick from the Trib here, who says Lamar would have run the ball to get any positive gain on that pick six play. Lamar should have run the ball. There were no open receivers. Bad decision. And I think, you watch the all-22 on that one. It's certainly not a good decision on his part to throw that ball. He didn't see the defender whatsoever. Another one here from the Trib says O-line was not holding up. The snaps were an issue throughout. I give it up to Hollywood. He's playing as he should. A true number 2. We got another one here from Misfit Culture TV. Number one thing for the Ravens is get a number 1 receiver ASAP. Hollywood's a decent number 2. You'll need to get a solid burner to spread the field. Also, why did the Ravens let RG3 go? RG3 is better than Huntley all day. I don't know about that. Huntley looked decent. They moved the ball.
McSorley, Huntley.
Put them twos up, baby.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Quincy, I'll let you go with your take on the game, and then I'll derail.
All right. So
I don't think it's a real derail, by the way. I'm not going to derail.
One of the things I hear about all the time, right? Whenever somebody is critical of Lamar Jackson, they go, "Oh my God, he has no weapons," and I think that's kind of like it's not as dire as a situation as a lot of Raven fans want to make it seem. You have Mark Andrews, and how much better is, and they always bring up the Browns when they talk about the lack of weapons. Baker's been throwing like Jarvis Landry and then like Rashard Higgins and Donovan. Who were these guys before they were playing with? Yeah, who were these guys before they play? How much better do you think? Do you not think Marquise Brown is better than Rashard Higgins or Donovan Peoples-Jones at this point? Like, is it really that obtuse of a situation there for the Ravens when it comes to their weapons? I don't think the problem, obviously they need to get better fitting weapons, but I don't think the problem is they don't have firepower. I think the problem is that I said this all year with the Ravens. The Ravens are a team that could smash through about 20, 25 teams in the NFL, no problem. They'll blow out everybody, right? 25 teams in the NFL every year. But they're a team that there are just a handful of teams in the NFL that match up or can do some things well against them, and it stops them every time when a team has success doing that. They remind me, and I know Raven fans are going to jump down my throat for saying this, but don't they remind you of watching the Milwaukee Bucks in the playoffs? Don't they? Whenever they get in, somebody matches up well with Giannis, takes that away. All of a sudden, that team that's been dominant offensively all year looks like a shell of themselves. This is the exact same situation. This is a team that is built to dominate 25 teams in the NFL. Or maybe you can even up it to about 28. But once they get into the playoffs, it becomes a problem because they're going to match up with somebody who can stop them athletically. And when that becomes the case, right, when you can't go all day crazy, wide, silly with the triple option like they like to do, when you don't have that going, when Mark Andrews is not running butt booty naked wide open, and you need Lamar Jackson to stand in there and not just be a good pocket passer, because he is a good pocket passer. I don't want that to be forgotten in my analysis, but to be a great pocket passer, to make some of those tight window throws that this is going to trigger a lot of y'all in the chat. Baker Mayfield did in that 18-play drive where he had that fourth down and he threw a tight window ball to David Njoku, a tight window ball to Jarvis Landry, a tight window ball to Austin Hooper. That's not because the wide receivers are getting separation for Cleveland. It's because Baker was making the plays. Lamar has not proven that he can make those kind of plays out the pocket. And there aren't a lot of teams that can force him to do that. So it doesn't become a consistent issue throughout the year. But when he does, it's a massive problem. It's not playing from behind that's the problem. It's matchups that's always been the problem with him. It's always the problem. It's always going to be the problem. And they got to figure out a way to evolve, whether that is finding some cheat codes. I think DeAndre Hopkins was the cheat code that they missed out on. I don't think they're going to get a cheat code that can be like that can help Lamar in those type of situations. So now that ship has sailed on Lamar, like, is this their fate? Like, is this a team that's always going to look really good in the regular season, always going to be able to blow out a lot of teams by a lot of points, but once they get into the playoffs, stuff like this happens? I think so. I think this is what – now, granted, this was a weird game. Like, I don't want to get away. Like, Justin Tucker missing 2 field goals. Harrison Butker also missed, 2 kicks in that game. Like both the best kickers in the NFL, right, just stunk all weekend.
Not a good week. Not a good
guys
week.
like Cody Parkey and the guy from South Florida were 100%. It was a weird week for kickers, right? But – all that being said, this has been a constant problem with the Ravens when they match up against teams that can do certain things well against them. It's been a problem for 3 years with the Chiefs, right? Lost with the last 3 years in a row to the Chiefs. It's been a problem when they get up against some of these better teams. When Pittsburgh is operating at full strength and they are actually being Blitzburgh, it was a problem, not for the whole game, but for a good enough part of it to lose that game. It's been a problem with just a handful of teams. And the problem the Ravens are always going to face is that they're going to have to play one of those teams, and they just don't have an answer. And honestly, I don't know if you can just sign an answer. I don't know if it's as simple as getting a better wide receiver. Like, I don't know if AJ Green or Juju Smith-Schuster is going to fix that problem, because yes, they can help, but I don't know if it fixes the issue, right? Like, this is the exact same situation the Milwaukee Bucks are going to find themselves in this year. They're going to win 60 games in the regular season and then lose in the second round of Philly. Like, it's the same situation that a team like that falls into. You're built to dominate in the regular season, but man, it's an uphill battle when you get to the like, the defense can't be much better than it is now. Like, is it going to get better?
It almost could not be better than they were on Sunday, because we talk about 17 points from the Bills. No. The Bills offense scored 10. Yeah. Lamar scored 7. Are
you going to get healthier than you were against that game? Like, you can't get healthier. The defense did everything they could in that game, and the offense just couldn't get anything going. And yes, part of that is credit to the Bills defense, right? They did the right things. They were able to play these things right, and get the turnovers when they needed them. Some of it's on Lamar and the bad decision-making, and we can just hand wave that off as, well, maybe Lamar doesn't make that decision next year. But it happens. It happens consistently. It happens a lot. Not a lot. That's an over-exaggeration, but it happens enough where you have to consider it. And that's where the Ravens are at right now. They're in a tough spot to where they're always going to be 11-5, 12-4. They're always going to be able to get to the second round. But getting to the conference championship and winning a Super Bowl, that might be a mountain that I don't know if they have enough to I don't know if they're built in a way that's going to help them overclimb it, because a lot of this is just, is Lamar going to be as deadly accurate as you need him to be? Is he going to be the great pocket passer you're going to need him to be against some of these defenses that can do the great things against him? Is that going to be where he goes? He has developed so far in so little time that you can easily believe that he can get there, but also you can easily believe that he is plateaued as a pocket passer at this point. He's as good as he's going to get. And if that's the case, this might just be where y'all end up, because again, I just don't think a better wide receiver is going to be a fix, or a good enough wide receivers available to be the fix in that area. You have Mark Andrews. He was virtually non-existent in this game. Like, he's a really good, he's the second best tight end in the NFL. You know, Hollywood Brown was playing amazing in this game for Hollywood Brown. He was looking like, not Ty Stink Hill, Tyreek Hill or whatever, Tyreek Hill. He was looking nice out there. He was out here. He got wide open on a couple of times. Like, it just, they want to blame, you can blame it on the wide receivers. You can blame it on Greg Roman. They're doing as much as what they can with the build of this offense. It's just sometimes you run into limitations, and I think we need to be realistic about what those limitations are with Lamar and what the solutions are going to be to fix that problem. And I think the solution was DeAndre Hopkins, and that's not available anymore. Yeah. And maybe you could get somebody in the draft that could be like DeAndre Hopkins, but that's a Hail Mary in the water. You know what I mean? I think that's the biggest problem that the Ravens are going to face. Not that they're going to be a bad team next year. No, they're going to be a lock for 12-4 at the very least, right? Yeah. But this is where they run into issues every year. This is where the issues are. Yeah. And this is where they're going to continue to be until either Lamar takes a leap as a pocket passer. And I know people don't like to hear that because it comes with the assumption that I think Lamar's a running back. No, he's a good pocket passer. He's better than most pocket passers in the NFL. But is he on that level to where, like, hey, if you need him to squeeze it out, need him to make a tight window, throw in the end zone and not throw a pick six in his own end zone? Is he there yet? No, he's not.
And it's nothing wrong with saying that because I'm a Lamar Jackson fan too. It's just like me saying that Joe Burrow needs to improve on his deep ball. That was an obvious weakness. It's okay. It's okay to say that, quarterbacks have work to do in certain areas. So I think that's where we're at. I don't think Quincy is saying that Lamar Jackson is a running back.
Right. Just by obviously, I'm not trying to say he's a bad quarterback. I'm just saying, like, you got to be realistic. There are limitations against great teams that he faces. And I said all year, there are like 5 teams that they can't match up well with. And that's always going to be the problem, especially when all of those teams are in the AFC.
Right. But I think the interesting thing about that is it's almost the same issue that Mike Vick had, right? Mike Vick was always this carbon copy. Well, not carbon copy, but because he was unique. But he was this amazing guy that, didn't have the best arm accuracy per se, right? But I wonder because we never saw Mike Vick have that number one receiver. He was always good with his tight end. We see that from Lamar. Can this be a guy that gets that number one receiver that he can have that connection with? Because we never really I guess technically that's not true because when Mike Vick went to Philadelphia, he became a better passer. If we can see some of that evolution with Lamar, I think right now we're at kind of Atlanta Falcons Mike Vick with Lamar. If he can turn into Philadelphia Eagles Michael Vick and improve some of that passing, work on some of his accuracy a little bit, get better receivers, I wonder where he can take it to. I think that the sky's the limit there, but I just don't want it to be a situation, and it's almost like with the Bengals, right? Situation with the Bengals is we're not putting a line around Joe Burrow. Situation with the Ravens is they're not putting enough wide receivers around Lamar Jackson. So I think that that's the issue. You have to actually see it, and they've got Marquise Brown. They had Des Bryant, who disappeared pretty much in this game, but we haven't seen them, like Quincy said, with the DeAndre Hopkins. How are you going to get that guy now that you got to pay him? That's the question that the Ravens have to answer this offseason.
Yeah.
Well, you also have to ask the question too. Like, it's not a guarantee just because you get a great wide receiver, it's going to work out. Like, all the questions about Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham still exist, right? Even though both have individually proven that they're pretty good players. And people are saying now Baker's better without Odell. Like, who knows? Who knows if Lamar's decision-making or if he stares down receivers more if he has a DeAndre Hopkins or like he did with Mark Andrews. Like, I just think some of the questions when we're like, hey, all of the Ravens' problems can be fixed when it comes if you just get them the right receivers. Like, it's not like the situation was that terrible on Sunday with the Bills. Like, Mark Andrews and Hollywood Brown was playing a good game. He wasn't dropping the ball a lot. Like, he was actually, like, to his credit, and I hate to give Tyreek Hill credit, he was out there balling. I was kind of upset about it. He was actually out there balling, doing his thing. Like, I just don't know, like, how good does a wide receiver need to be to get them over that hump? And if that's the case, like, is it a carry job at that point? And that's like for a dude who's won MVP, it's like, how can it be a carry job? But it's just I think the Ravens' issues are more than just, the offensive coordinator stinks and the play calling's bad. I think the offensive coordinator is a lot of the reason to why they have a lot of success, to be honest, as well as why they have some failures and limitations. It's just, you look at the build of this team, you got to be realistic. There are some limitations on it, and some of those limitations can be deadly with some of the matchups that you have in the AFC. And it's unfortunate he's in the AFC. He was in the NFC, he probably would have been to a Super Bowl already. But since he's in the AFC, it's a wrap.
And not to take a shot at Baker or anything by that means, but we saw what happened last year, right? Baker threw too many times. He started throwing interceptions. When Stefanski came in, he wasn't having Baker throw 40 and 50 times this season. He realized if I do that, he's going to start turning the ball over. So like Quincy is saying, it's all about your coordinator and how they come in and how they use them. Like, you can't make Andy Dalton come out here and start slinging it like he's Phillip Rivers. Like, that's just not going to work. You have to be conducive to your quarterback and utilize his limitations and make that a strength versus a weakness. Like Lamar Jackson, to me, no, he's never going to be Aaron Rodgers. He's not going to be Pat Mahomes. But if you can at least improve that pass accuracy by, let's just say, 15 to 20%, and you put him in the right system, he can be an MVP just like he was. It just depends on that system.
Well, he will always be able to win the MVP because he will be fantastic during the regular season.
Right.
And my question is also, it's like, my question is also like, hey, one of the things you have to be concerned about, say they do sign a wide receiver out here for $15 million. Well, was that going to change the outlook of that offense? Does that mean less touches for JK? That mean less running the ball? Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if you bring in that wide receiver, that means there's a commitment when it comes to play calling towards that wide receiver, as we saw with Odell, where Baker's pass attempts went way up when Odell was in there at a time where it didn't need to be that high. And one of the things we saw with the Ravens at the beginning of the season, why they look so sloppy and why they lost so many games that they did this season when they shouldn't have, is because they were trying too much to have those wide receivers be a part of the game. Now, you can argue better wide receivers, better result, but I just don't think this Ravens team's at its best when they're trying to throw the ball. I think they're at their best when they're running it, and they had everything they needed to run the ball. Maybe if you get Ronnie Stanley back, you better offensive line.
If they had Andy Reid's creative genius, that's what they're missing. Like, if they had Andy Reid utilizing Lamar Jackson with his creativity, I think you'd get some better players there. But I mean, that's with everybody. I mean, you put Andy Reid on anybody's team. But I think if he had someone creative like that, or Josh McDaniels, I think you'd see some pretty creative things there.
Let me run. Sonny, I know you want to respond. I'm going to give you a chance to respond here. Let me just run through the super chats real quick, and then we will get your thoughts. Garnet West, right? A $5 super chat. Appreciate that. Anybody notice the Ravens always go after their weaknesses after being exposed after big time games? And I have to imagine after that game, you're going to look at the Steelers or the Ravens getting offensive linemen and potentially even some wide receivers in the offseason. Let's go back here. Let me make sure I get all the super chats in. I think I might have missed one, so I'll have to read it up from our.
You miss after.
Yeah, I got Richly the $20 one. Yeah. He says Ravens have the 27th pick in the draft. Do you think Rashad Bateman, Minnesota, Kyle Pitts from Florida, the tight end, or a versatile offensive lineman like Rashawn Slater from Northwestern?
No way Kyle Pitts is there. There's no way Kyle Pitts is there.
Yeah, I think from this list, I think Bateman might be there at 27. Pitts is probably too late. They have to trade up. Even Slater, I think, would be.
They could trade off for Pitt. To be honest, for Rich, I haven't scout anybody right now, so I couldn't tell you. It all depends right now on necessities. If you say what are the needs, is wide receiver, it is another tight end, it is outside linebacker, and a center.
Yeah. Okay, we got Jeremiah Heck, $5 super chat, says if Lamar can't run, he's forced to pass. Baker needs to become more consistent. Also curious to see who gets better next season, Lamar or Baker. And then Garnet West writes another $5 super chat. If the Ravens are not going to invest in a receiver, it's going to be critical on Lamar to, quote, evolve his game by reading the field. Yeah. And then the Trib with a $10 super chat here says, before this goes down a rabbit hole, Lamar is not the issue. Can't all be on Lamar. He makes mistakes like they all do. There's no buffer for his mistakes. He'll improve, but he needs help. All right, Sonny.
They need to get like a bunch of Oh, I think he went out for a second, but Sonny, what was your response to what everybody had to say?
A couple things. First of all, I'll start.
Hey, what's up?
Okay.
So, your response. I my whole internet just decided couldn't take it. Too excited to.
On the case of Hollywood and Higgins, I think Hollywood during the year was disappointing. It was a disappointing play, although in the last couple of weeks he has been playing better, right? A couple things during this game. Look, Josh Allen. Let's agree on this. Josh Allen a way faster than Lamar Jackson. Can you guys agree with that? Or is this
Josh Allen's way better? Yes, yeah. Overall, as a passer, yeah. But
okay.
All right. Maybe
season,
from this season, he's gotten better.
I mean, before this season,
not before this season. But this season, he's been balling.
This season, he's good. Before the season, trash.
Didn't he throw over 4,000 yards? Right? I think he eclipsed 4,000.
I can look up his
I am not familiar with Josh Allen.
I'm not familiar.
Josh Allen played 4 quarters, 23 completions, 206 yards. Lamar Jackson 3 quarters, right? Because he left on the third quarter. 162 yards. Only difference of 44 yards and less attempts. Again.
Is that me? That's me. That's my bad. That's my bad. Listen, you guys are making me go out and pull up random stats.
Okay. So this is not me saying that Lamar Jackson outduel Josh Allen, But Lamar Jackson, in this conditions, both quarterbacks are having troubles throwing. This again was my point that when you were unfavored with the win, that's where you can see the better throws were Josh Allen. That was the third quarter for Josh Allen. That was the one drive that they scored a touchdown. That was the progression. Now, my other problem was the Ravens were running the ball bad for the Ravens' standpoint, meaning for what they usually run the ball, they weren't effective, right? Usually the Ravens are eclipsing 6 yards per clip. When you were having both running backs running on average a 4.2 a clip, they were moving the ball. That last drive that Lamar was there in the third quarter, it wasn't like Lamar was just passing, and that's how they drove down the field. No, it was mostly running the ball as well, where Lamar Jackson was there and had the team in position. Again, the pick six was bad. Now, if you want to talk about the problems with Lamar Jackson, and we're going to have a whole offseason to talk about this in this channel. But one of the problems that Lamar, in my opinion, has two problems. He's not accurate. He's not perfectly accurate at the ball. He likes to throw behind receivers, and that drives me bonkers. Right? He throws behind receivers, right? And second, which is even worse than that, anticipation. He does not. He likes to throw receivers when they are open, right? And that is a problem. Now, you say, would another receiver be a difference? Yes, and this is right. You right now, I can say confident that Cincinnati, Steelers, and the Browns have at least one receiver that when you're in a third and goal situation, you can isolate it on the outside, and your quarterback, all it does, it doesn't make a read. All it does is like that dude, and Flacco had this throughout his career. Throw it high to that dude over there, and either the dude makes the catch or he has an incompletion, right? Flacco had it with Anquan Bolden and a couple others throughout his career. The Bengals had it with AJ Green, and I think Boyd and Higgins, and not Higgins, your rookie.
No, that's Higgins.
That's Higgins.
Yeah. Higgins, right?
Two Higgins.
And yes, and then I will say for the Browns, Juice is that guy, right? You can throw it to him. If you really need, you can throw it to him. And then with the Steelers, right now, although he's a rookie, that will be Claypool in the coming years, right? Andrews, you can say, well, that you have the big body on Andrews. Andrews, although it's an excellent tight end that I love, Andrews is not overly athletic. Andrews is not a guy that's going to high point the ball. If you throw it a little bit high, usually what happens with Andrews is it hits the tip of his hand and it goes sailing. And this is not a criticism of Andrews. The limitation of Andrews, it is the athleticism. He's not overly athletic. A great tight end, top of the league. We need that wide receiver. Right now, our wide receivers are just smaller-ish receivers. I've been saying throughout the year, I need my 50-50 guy. Lamar doesn't have that guy. And that play, it was completely the fault of Lamar. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I just don't buy the idea that Lamar's like the Ravens would have scored more than 3 points if they had someone to throw a fade to. Right? I don't think the problem with the Ravens right now.
I'm not even saying.
Let him clarify. Let's clarify
I'm not even saying that the Ravens would have scored more than or whatever it is, 3 points. In that position, that was on Lamar. That pick six was horrible. But if you take that pick six, for example, and you just score a field goal, and you can say, well, you're not scoring touchdown. My point with that game was, again, you can go back to my idea, like, now you're 6-10, and you're moving to the quarter where the conditions that have been affecting kicking and passing throughout the game is in your favor. With a team that has been possessing the ball the longest, that game could have turned to the Ravens side even if you score a field goal. That was a horrible pass from Lamar. That's all on Lamar. Steer the receiver, bad pass. That was it. That was on Lamar. And that was game right there. As soon as that happened, that was game. Because I don't think this Ravens, how the Buffalo Bills were playing on defense, and you can take limitations when Lamar could not come out 14 points trailing in a quarter. 7, yes, we could have tied it. 14 down with a quarter left. Doesn't matter how the conditions were. We were not going to tie that game. So, yes, the Ravens had a limitation. Lamar Jackson had a limitation. Again, I think my biggest two problems that Lamar has is he's not completely accurate, and also he doesn't throw anticipation, meaning if the guy's not wide open, he doesn't throw to him, and he needs to get better in that because, yes, even if you get receivers, you have to anticipate the guy being open. If not, doesn't matter. You could have got Hopkins and you would not throw that ball.
Right.
My question for the Ravens, though, is even if I do give you that point, and I do think there is some credence to that, right? Because you look at the improvement Josh Allen made once he got to Stephon Diggs, and you look at that and you can see, hey, look, he can have that same success, or even Kyler Murray at some point in the season with DeAndre Hopkins. My question is, where is that guy coming from for you?
So
within the next 2 years.
Yeah, no, I will tell you right now.
That's the biggest problem that you have. Even if that's the issue, the solution ain't really there.
Well, the only guy that I can see right now for the Ravens, and then look, I've been trying to scout free agents. I don't think a rookie will be it, because the rookie guys, and I would say, I said this, I think in this channel, if not for sure on my channel, our rookie can look beautiful on tape, and we can all say this guy's a sure thing and can come to the NFL and bust, right? It's the reality. Mm-hmm. The only guy that I like on free agency right now, Allen Robinson from the Bears.
I don't think he's good enough.
He's going to cost some money.
He's going to cost a lot of money.
I will say this, though. I'm going to be confident here. So remember, there was once upon a time when Joe Burrow was on fire. I was saying that I think that Joe Burrow could potentially be one of the best quarterbacks in this division. This is the difference. When you had someone like an Andy Dalton, you have a quarterback with limitations. Not to say Joe Burrow doesn't have limitations, because that deep ball was a limitation.
Yeah, they are going to be an issue. Yeah.
When you have quarterbacks that need those big receivers, like those are the guys that have to kind of depend on those receivers. Josh Allen is that guy, because before Josh Allen had Stephon Diggs, he was not doing that. He wasn't passing for 4,000 yards. He only passed for 3,000. I think the year before that might have been close to 2,000. You get guys that need that receiver. That receiver can make a difference. If you have DeAndre Hopkins there, he can make a difference. Just ask Quincy, did Josh Gordon make a difference for Cleveland no matter who they had at quarterback that year that he went off? It definitely makes a difference. This is the difference about Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow can go into that situation with Mike Thomas, who nobody knows, and score a touchdown with him. And that's one of the reasons I don't want us to pick a receiver at 5, because it doesn't matter who we have at receiver really with Joe Burrow. He's going to put it on whoever's there. Like for Mike Thomas to only have, I think, like 42 yards, no touchdown to come from the Rams, and then he's catching touchdowns in the red zone. That's the type of quarterback that he is, but every quarterback is different.
I'm just saying that like, I have no doubt in my mind that if you get a good catch radius guy, that would be awesome for Lamar, because a lot of the issues Lamar has is catch radius, right? Somebody who can turn around, make that play. Somebody who can snag one, has a large catch radius, can jump up and down, even if it's a little bit off target, and make those plays. That's what helped with, that's the exact thing that helped with Josh Allen, right? Stephon Diggs, even though he's not known for being expeditiously athletic, he's crafty enough to where he can be a catch radius guy, and where people can say, hey, Jarvis has good enough hands in the middle of the field to be a little bit of a catch radius guy, even though he's like 5'10". Well, he's 6 foot actually. Let me give him his height credit. But again, the question is is Allen Robinson the guy? Like there is a large drop off from there is
he's not a top 5, and we're talking about
AJ Green made Andy Dalton look like a competent quarterback for years. It definitely helps. I'm not saying that Lamar Jackson is Andy Dalton.
I'm saying that, but AJ Green, like, have we ever? We're like, yo, we gotta watch out for Allen Robinson. Like, it would be another situation where you're forcing a 2 to be a 1. And you don't want to continue to be in those situations, but there's no other choice. Like, I would say maybe Juju would even be a better option, but Juju ain't changing that team's fortunes like that. So it's just like, where's that one coming from? Because I think the unfortunate thing about the Ravens is that they realized this was a massive problem a year too late. If this offseason would have happened last year, they would have went out and gave everything to get a DeAndre Hopkins or Stephon Diggs, who are both available for pretty cheap prices. The issue is now those guys aren't going to be available. You're not going to have a good enough draft to get anybody with any decent size in the first round. And even if that happens, you're waiting 3 years down the line to develop. Who knows what Lamar's contract situation and your cap situation is? And the time to strike the iron is now. Yeah. But just like the Bucks, you screwed up your cap situation enough to where it's like I don't know who you're going to get. Even if you have the money, you don't have the opportunity to get somebody who's worthwhile. And it's like, if you're going to spend $10-15 million for Allen Robinson, I think that hurts the team more than it helps, honestly, at the end of the day, even though he's a better fit than the other wide receivers you have there, because it's just like, he's not going to be that guy for Lamar. And you might as well put that money in another tight end or just offensive line and just go all in on running the ball.
The only way that they can do this is if they literally like trade their first pick and maybe their first pick next season or some years after that and move up and take one of these receivers. Like if one of those top receivers that are out there in this draft are there, you're going to have to move up. Like you're going to have to pull a Atlanta Falcons when they jumped up to get Julio, you're going to have to pull one of those. Like because like Quincy is saying, you're going to have to pay those guys. You're going to have to do something like that.
You're going to have to hope for somebody to get disgruntled or something because the dude's just not available. Like that's just the problem.
Let me some receivers in the draft class though. I will say that this is a pretty strong.
But it's a lot of receivers like Devontae Smith and not a lot of dudes like, big guys like Mike Evans or somebody like that. You know what I mean?
This isn't a draft full of big receivers. You're absolutely right about that. The Trib, get a $2 super chat. Appreciate that. O-line and losing Hayden Hurst were issues as well.
To add to the point to the Trib, look, the problem that we have is the receivers is a point, but also the O-line wasn't playing great this game, right? The O-line was getting manhandled. The center was playing. Look, I said this. I like Pat McCarry. Pat McCarry was the center. But Pat McCarry, for some reason, started having issues with snaps again. Well, not again, because the other one was screwed. And his answer, like if I'm Harbaugh, I would have cut this dude. His answer was, I think the noise from the fans got to me. And I'm like, it's 5,500 fans. And you're telling me you're bad.
Bills Mafia. Hey, Bills Mafia is a
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because next year, what are you going to do when the full stadium is? You're going to just bad snap. I would have just cut him. I'm like, dude, you can play with him.
All right, got another one here from the Trib who says that pick six drive was 11 passes, 5 runs, all shotgun.
Yeah, well, that's what we do. We do all that. We do shotgun. And I know some Ravens fans like, oh, we should go down the center, and maybe right. We'll see. We'll see what they do in the offseason. But I think the reason why you do shotgun is because at that point you are having Lamar presented to the front. You're not putting the back to the D line. And second, the read pass option. That's all. That's what we run. Is the read. That's your play action is predicated for the read pass option.
Matty Bond, $5 super chat here. Honestly, do you think a true number one will come to Baltimore? A run-heavy team and a QB with passing issues, they will have to overpay. Something that certainly got talked about last offseason. I think it'll be talked about this offseason as well. Do receivers on the open market even want to go to Baltimore? Given
I think he's completely right. Now, I will say this for the DeAndre Hopkins and Diggs trade thing. Diggs wasn't cheap. The Buffalo had to I don't remember how many.
I don't know that they overpaid because they're in the AFC Championship game. Right?
Yes, no. My point is,
Diggs has always been a good receiver.
My point is on cost. He wasn't cheap because you had to give him the contract plus the draft picks. The case of DeAndre Hopkins, he was cheap because you had to give him the contract, but draft picks, it was just a second round pick. The Ravens
and David Johnson. Don't forget the elite running back David Johnson was
They tried to get him, but the rumor was that the Texans didn't want to trade it to the AFC. So for all we know, they might have offered the first round pick, but Bill O'Brien didn't want that. And they tried to go up and try to get CeeDee Lamb, but the Dallas Cowboys got him. They had a deal basically struck with the Oakland Raiders, which was a pick or two behind them. I don't think CeeDee Lamb was that receiver that we needed, but my point is they have been trying to make moves. They haven't paid out, but
just like the Boston Celtics.
Well, again, we'll see. I agree with it.
Had T. Higgins.
I agree that Allen Robinson is not the top receivers. For all it's worth, and I just did this real quick search. I'm pulling the ranks of PFF, and PFF has Devontae Adams first, Stephon Diggs second, A.J. Brown third, Justin Jefferson's a rookie, a guy that I love, fourth. Fifth, Allen Robinson. Sixth, Thielen. Seventh, DeAndre Hopkins. Julio.
That's right. I forgot. PFF loves Allen Robinson. I forgot about that. Yeah. They're very high on Allen.
Here's the question. We know sometimes when PFF grades, we're like, okay, there's like all these make sense, but there are a couple that's like, why is Tyson Alualu in the top?
Here's the thing, though. Here's my question, right? And I know, again, we're gonna get killed for this because, like, oh, you're calling Lamar running back. No. But like, Did Andre Hopkins make Mitch Trubisky that much better? No, right? So, like, we talk about Lamar and the issues he has throwing the football.
Robinson.
Allen Robinson. Did Allen Robinson make Mitch Trubisky that much better? No. And Mitch Trubisky has a lot of problems as a quarterback. Lamar, as we've talked about, anticipation. I agree with you, Sonny. Doesn't have that. I thought his pocket presence in this game was poor. I mean, there was the first sack that he took in this game when he's just staring down that receiver, seeing a free rusher coming right at him, and then turning his back to the rusher and taking a terrible sack was an awful play in this game. I just don't know. Again, I think there's the problem here for Ravens fans. You do have to wonder, is this as good as it gets for Lamar Jackson, right? Have we seen as good as this, as good as you can do this, which is building an offense around his unique skill set? And is this all we can do? And if we want to be any better, we have to evolve him out of that. And I think, what was interesting after the game is I watched the Ringers post-game press conference where Kevin Clark said that exact thing to Mallory Rubin, who's a huge Ravens fan, and she was very upset about it. Then I immediately turned on Joe Nubo's stream, and he said basically the same thing, which is, look, we can't win like this. We will never win a Super Bowl like this. We have to revamp the offseason, the offense in the offseason. Of course, he's talking about putting playmakers around there. Again, I think it's a weird offseason for the Ravens because I do think that this version of the Ravens has peaked, and now they have to figure out, can we evolve past this? And can we?
But think about this. Think about how Cal Mary got better when he got his receiver. You just talk about Allen. He got better when he got the receiver. The problem is, as Quincy was saying, is that guy out there. I'm not sure. At this point, the best option is Allen Robinson. For those Ravens fans that say Will Fuller ain't that guy. Will Fuller is as fit.
I would love for them to think Will Fuller is that guy, though.
Oh, you
already.
Will Fuller.
Marquise Brown, but he gets hurt all the time.
Will Fuller is finesse. He's a speed guy. Will Fuller is a version of Robbie Anderson, right? They're basically similar guys. They're finesse.
Robbie Anderson's way better.
I mean, they're
the same type of
trash Will Fuller if you're a Raven, if you're talking about the Ravens.
My point is, it's not if he's great or not. My point is he's not that guy that we need. That's not the receiver that will give you the hump. Allen Robinson type of receiver is what you need. More 50-50, a guy that has a bigger catch radius. That is, Will Fuller is not that guy. So the problem is there's not that many out there. Yes, Hopkins would have been the ultimate solution, but we can't have that guy anymore. We can't.
I just want to say, we talked about Allen Robinson not being good with Mitch Trubisky. 2020, 102 receptions, 1,200 yards, 6 touchdowns. 2019, 98 receptions, 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns. That's not...
Flip. Oh, no, it's flipped. I said, did Allen Robinson make Mitch Trubisky better, right? No one's talking about Mitch Trubisky. He got fixed because he got Allen Robinson in. That's what the Bears thought. The Bears thought, we're going to get Allen Robinson and Trubisky's going to be our guy. They put Allen Robinson with him, and guess what?
But Lamar is better than Trubisky, right? Lamar is better than Trubisky. So
the Allen Robinson thing was Allen Robinson kind of bet on Trubisky too, because being close to Jacksonville, he was tired of catching balls from Blake Bortles. He was pretty much done with that and went to Chicago because he didn't want to play with Blake Bortles anymore.
All right, we have a ton of let me get through a ton of super chats here. We'll get back into this. Jared Green here says Ravens really don't need a top receiver. We just need a consistent receiver in the past, like we had Derek Mason, Mike Wallace, Smith. I can agree with that. I mean, I think a more consistent receiver.
Income golden is what I want.
Realistically, it's going to be kicking the tires on AJ Green for the Ravens. Like, we can have Allen Robinson on. Realistically, it's going to be like, hey, AJ, you want to come to the Ravens? Like, that's their best chance.
I said that before too.
Another super chat from him, $2 here. Appreciate that. Baltimore always gets older, consistent wide receivers. So
Larry Fitzgerald, come on now. All right.
Oh, goodness. Okay, and then King Apugo says, no, actually, the Ravens do need a number one receiver and a new offensive coordinator.
Change the whole identity of a top offense. Let's do that.
Well, you're right. But see, you're right. No, Quincy, you are right. They might need to change the identity because, like you said, they are the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, this is an offense that in 4 playoff games now, this top offense, right? We talked about how hot they were coming into this game. Mm-hmm. They've played 4 playoff games now. They've scored a total of, I believe, 52 points in those games, 13 points per game in the playoffs for this offense that, again, in the regular season is lights out. I mean, this offense is putting up 30, 40, 50 points in the regular season. They get to the, we talked about Cinderella last week, right? The Ravens offense, when it gets to the postseason, they turn back into a pumpkin. I mean, that's just what happens every year. And we can say, well, no, next year it'll be different. But again, this idea
that next year will be different. I'm just saying, what is the deficiency for the Ravens? I can tell you what the deficiencies are. And
Lamar is one of the deficiencies, though.
Well, Lamar, yes. Look,
in the playoffs, he's one of the deficiencies.
Look at this. No, more than this, because I got a lot of hate because I put a video yesterday, and Lamar has deficiencies. And the problem that I have with Lamar is this. It's not next year. It won't be next year. Because if you think about Lamar right now, his ROI, his return on investment, is surpassed what we're paying him. We're paying him $3 million next year. That's it, right? And the following year, a fifth-year option might be 15. The problem is not that. The problem is when you pay him to the extended 35 plus. Now, what happens with there is, which is what I was telling the Ravens fans, is when you're paying a quarterback that much, now the deficiencies that he has get bigger because I cannot pay the other stuff, right, to pad the deficiencies. So Lamar has to do those two things. He needs to get, I think what Ace said is perfect, 15% better accuracy. I think that will be good enough. The bigger problem is accuracy is a problem, is anticipation, because if you don't have anticipation, you're holding the ball because you're not seeing the guy open. Because you're not seeing the guy open, you're holding the ball, you're going to get sacked, or you're going to bail on the play. The guy might have been open if you anticipate. As soon as the guy puts the foot on the ground, you have to know, oh, he's 1-on-1 and he's going to cut right. He's going to throw. You have to throw the outside throw, right? Lamar doesn't have that. That is definitely his biggest issue. Can that work? But that's trust. Can he work on that? Sure. He needs to just let it go. He needs to let it go, right? But other than that, we need that catch radius guy. We need to, because in that third and medium, you need that guy that you can say, here it is, you're 1-on-1, go make the play. We don't have that guy.
I get that. And to Tony's point, like, yeah, they probably theoretically, they need to change things on offense and it needs to be different, right? But like, is that going to be a good fit for Lamar and what he does and does not do well? That's the Giannis problem, right? In order to get the best out of Giannis, you have to run this kind of an offense that there are people who could just stop that in the playoffs. Like, that is the issue. And the one solution is, hey, get some better scoring, get some better backup than Chris Middleton out there. I know we're talking a lot of basketball on this AFC North podcast, but get some better
basketball season for all of us now.
Yeah, but the problem that the Bucks ran into is the same problem the Ravens ran into. When you're in that market for help, there's just the best you could do is Eric Bledsoe. And I'm telling you right now, Allen Robinson, like, it's a solution, I guess. But it's Eric Bledsoe. Like, it's not gonna fix this problem that you have. It's gonna help.
It's like Gordon Hayward going to the Hornets, though. It's like, yeah, Gordon Hayward going to the Lakers, not moving the bar that much. Gordon Hayward going to the Hornets, now he's looking like a superstar over there.
Yeah. The reality, but my point is, right now, if you think about the Ravens offensively, you think about Lamar, right? If you think about Lamar, let's assume that he's a top 10 quarterback, right? Lamar, good. You have Ronnie Stanley as top 3 left tackle, right? And after that, you have Andrews as one of the top tight ends. And after those 3 persons on offense, can you tell me, will you take any Ravens players after that for your team?
JK.
Oh, Dobbins. Okay.
I would take
you need a running back. Yes.
I think a lot of teams to take JK. He looks very good.
Well, I'm
saying for a rookie contract, and I let him go.
I'm talking.
Tommy, didn't you just say you got 3 dudes like that? Like, the Bengals, do that one right there. You know what I mean?
Maybe you guys have to get a better quarterback coach, because I just realized you guys as quarterback coach is our old receivers coach. So get him a guy that actually knows how to coach quarterbacks.
The Ravens think Lamar's a wide receiver.
Look. Oh, think about that. What you just said, Q. If you talk about Ace can tell you, well, I have Higgins. People want Higgins. Wait for Green to hit the free agent market.
I got Higgins and Boyd, and then who else?
And Burrow.
Burrow's not known yet. No,
yeah. You don't want Burrow yet. You want the idea of Burrow, and Mixon is his contract. So
you want Burrow. Like, if Burrow,
you?
Oh, no.
Well, I mean, you're asking them to be like 4 or 5 deep on offense when it comes to skill players. Like, you got Lamar, you got Mark Andrews, you got J.K. Dobbins. That's enough. That should be enough. If you got a top 10 quarterback, a top tight end, and you got
he needs more. He needs more coming from the Andy Dalton. I have limitations.
More?
I don't know, man. Listen,
Andy Dalton solutions for 2-to-1.
I don't know.
He's not Andy Dalton, but he needs more weapons like Andy Dalton.
I think
you can offer more weapons, but I don't know if the weapons are the problem. I watched that interception that he threw to Mark Andrews, and no one can watch that play and go, well, listen, if you had Allen Robinson, that's not a pick. No, that's no matter who is out there.
I think that's what he's saying, but it's just like, still, bro. Like, You're saying the
The whole
Ravens need
defense
all
is
of these like skill players, and at some point, like if this were like just Lamar Jackson and then like a running back and then absolutely nobody out there at receiver, like okay, yeah, I would buy it. But like y'all act like Mark Andrews can't receive the ball. You act like Hollywood Brown. Like I know I've said Hollywood Brown is trash, but I've had a vested interest in calling him Pookie Brown.
Well, and the other
he's
thing
not
is
played like Pookie Brown the last 4 weeks of the year. Like he's been.
I agree with that.
But nobody's game planning for Marquise Brown.
Nobody's game planning for Allen Robinson, and you're gonna pay 15.
Yeah, they will. They'll game plan for Allen Robinson.
No, they're not. The Browns are just gonna be like, all right, Denzel, handle Allen like you've always handled Allen. Like Allen Robinson gets a ton of yards because he's always in blowouts because Mr. Trubisky
No.
Like that's what happens. Like, he's not somebody who changes the game. It's not going to be. I would take Juju over Allen Robinson. I would take AJ Green at age 32 over Allen Robinson because I think those dudes can actually do more given less.
Did you say maybe?
Huh?
No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't take AJ Green over Allen Robinson.
Allen Robinson had 1,200 yards with Mitchell.
You wouldn't do that.
Look, Allen Robinson.
Terrell Pryor had 1,000 yards with Cody Kessler. It don't mean he's good.
Let's get to some super chats here. We're falling behind on super chats again. Ara, I don't know how you pronounce this. 5 pound super chat. Appreciate that. Sorensen makes no play on the ball. His arms down by his side. He throws himself helmet first, not being a bang play. It's textbook targeting. I think Ara's probably watching on demand here as he's a little bit behind on the conversation, trying to get through these other ones here. Let me scroll back up. There we are.
Well, let me say this real quick. The thing is, when you bring Allen Robinson right now, is you said, oh, well,
Allen Robinson is better than the whole Ravens wide receiver room combined.
But if
it's not $10 million better for 3 years, that's going to eat into Lamar's extension.
I would cut every single receiver that they have to say, here's
Let me ask this question. Does Allen Robinson get 100 catches next year with Lamar?
But even
I don't think so. I mean,
does he want to go there?
Well, he wants to get paid, I think. We will have to overpay. I agree with that. Like if the Ravens offer him whatever and Team X offers him, we will have to beat the Team X. But what I was gonna say, what you're saying, Q, is like, oh well, tell Denzel Ward to get Robinson. Yes, but then that also helped Brown, right? Because now Brown's not on Denzel Ward. It's a cascade effect. Allen Robinson will make this offense better.
Denzel on Marquise Brown anyways.
But like, everybody don't have Denzel, Quincy. Everybody can't be like, oh, Denzel Ward going like we don't have.
We don't even have Denzel Ward half the time.
Try to stop this guy. Like that's not gonna happen.
I'm just saying, like, is Allen Robinson a cover buster? Like that's what you have to ask for $15-16 million a year for what the Ravens are asking. Like, is he going to be a $15 million upgrade? I think he'll be like a $6 million upgrade. He'll be nice. He might get 1,000 yards. He might do something. Like he might be all right there. But like what you're asking him to do, he's not the man for that job. That's for superstar wide receivers to do. And it's also just hard to attract these superstar wide receivers in free agency when they know they ain't going to get in situations. So you got to trade for them. And that's a volatile market that the Ravens don't really have. The opportunity for them to make this play, like the opportunity for them to make this play and get that guy. I'm sorry, Raven fans. It's past. You're better off just trying to put as much into the run game as possible than wasting that money on Allen Robinson and getting eliminated in the second round because Allen Robinson ain't good enough.
You're saying
I don't know about that. I think they do. I think they're going to be right. They're going to be right to make the change this offseason to go heavy on wide receiver. I just don't know if that's going to work either.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you might as well just go in on your strength instead of wasting $15 million to get the same result with Allen Robinson and then being catastrophic with them. You're gonna have to sign him for like 3-4 years. It's not gonna be like a 2-year deal with Allen Robinson. So now you're gonna be having that eat into Lamar when you're paying Lamar $35 million and Allen Robinson 18 or whatever. You got to overpay him to get him on the roster. Now you got who you gonna have on offensive line under you? Have Ronnie Stanley and Skura out there.
But
who's gonna be rushing the pass? it's just going to be by committee for the rest of the years? Like that's the problem.
Quincy. How are you going to put Lamar in this running game in a better situation than they were in this year right now, right? Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, rookie deals, right? I mean, this
you
offense
can have a healthy
coming.
Ronnie Stanley. You can have a better center who doesn't snap the ball over
Again,
the
but these injuries
you can have more. And
let's
let's not forget. One of the things I harped on the Ravens for at the beginning of the season is their lack of depth at tight end. They had Picard out there playing the second tight end position. So, like, if I'm the Ravens, like, cool, all this talk about getting that superstar receiver, that's dope. But I think you might as well. You've missed the boat. You're trying to grasp at straws. You're dating somebody who looks like your ex if you're trying to get Allen Robinson. Like, you're just living in the past if that's the case. That moment has passed for Raven fans. Now it's time to just throw money at tight end, throw money at guard, throw money at center, throw it all at the running game because it ain't coming with the pass game. You're better off waiting for like a Boykins or signing AJ Green on a vet minimum or whatever he can take and seeing what you can get there, or bringing back what's his name, Dez Bryant, or seeing what you can get out of Dez Bryant. Like the solution on paying a ton of money for wide receiver, that is a rabbit hole that will just do the same exact thing
blow up for them
I did this year. Like it's just, you might as well just make sure that running game is as good as possible.
I'll go with the super chat because I know we're.
Oh yeah, so we got New Mexico Life $2 super chat. Who I know we're over 2 hours now.
Who shows?
Yeah, New Mexico Life $2 super chat. Who is winning the division next year?
I mean, we have to wait for the offseason for that.
The team that don't Allen Robinson for $15 million a year, that's the team that's going to be winning the division. Like, all right, let me stop playing on Allen Robinson.
I don't hate Allen Robinson slander.
I don't hate Allen Robinson.
You do.
It's just like
you do. You clearly
you do.
Do you think Allen Robinson is a top 10 receiver?
Bro, listen, Allen Robinson.
Would you take Allen Robinson over Keenan Allen? Bro, I wouldn't even take him over.
I probably would. He's young.
It's Leonard Fournette all over again. You feel
like
about Allen Robinson like I feel about Leonard Fournette.
If the Bears are like straight up, we'll trade you for Jarvis Landry, we'll give you Allen Robinson. Like, you're out of your mind. I'm not doing that. That's ridiculous. Why would I do? I wouldn't do that. Jarvis had like 1,300 yards last year with Odell on the roster. Why would I do that with Allen Robinson?
Why? How old is Jarvis?
Jarvis Landry is like 30. No, he's like 30 now.
We're the same age.
In the same draft.
I mean, they're two different receivers, though. Allen Robinson doesn't play in the slot. He's not a slot receiver.
So he's less useful for Lamar.
Okay. King Apugo writes in again, $2 super chat. Only MVP quarterback in the division with the worst health. I've never understood this thing. Didn't they build this offense all around him? Again, what other team in the league could you put Lamar Jackson on and he would have this amount of success in? I don't know that there are a lot. They built this offense around him.
If he was on the Chiefs, it would be different. Because if he had Tyreek Hill, I think he needs a speedster. Like, I know you guys are saying he needs like a big guy. I think he really needs a speedster.
Didn't they try that with Duvernay
consistently?
Well,
he can't do it consistently. He can't do it consistently. Look, these are holes in his game, bro. Like, he does need the big wide receiver. The big wide receiver.
Mr. Trubisky has a ton of holes, way more holes in his game than Lamar.
And at no point did Mr. Trubisky with Allen Robinson ever look like he was good enough to be Lamar Jackson. Why is this?
We just gotta see it, bro. Like, this man has produced with Blake Bortles. We're not talking about Allen Robinson that's come from great quarterback situations.
Oh my God, bro!
We're talking about Blake Bortles, where he caught 15 touchdowns in one season, and then he had Mr. Trubisky. It's not like this dude had this quarterback that was slinging it, and if he goes to the Ravens, his numbers are going to go down.
He's been in Marius Thomas get 1,000 yards with Brock Osweiler. I have seen Cody Kessler throw dudes 1,000 yards. I've seen Josh Gordon have a 2,000 yard season with
Josh Gordon was good. He was an elite receiver.
Brandon Whedon, like. Yes, this can happen on bad teams. You know,
if you had Muhammad Massaquoi, and that was it. Y'all would not be. Jarvis Landry is like a Pro Bowl receiver, bro. If y'all didn't have Jarvis Landry, your offense would not be the same. Like,
obviously,
if you just had Higgins, it would be a drastic difference from that.
I just said Jarvis is better than Allen Robinson. Like, I just said that.
And he's the receiver. The Ravens don't have one. They have no receivers, bro. They have none. They have absolutely no receivers.
They have Mark Andrews.
Mark Andrews is a tight end. He's good, but he's a tight end. At the end of the day,
we gotta send Quincy some Allen Robinson tape after this.
We're gonna get Allison Robinson highlights.
Someone send Quincy some Allen Robinson YouTube tape right after this.
No. Because he had Devontae Parker in college. He didn't even like throwing to Devontae Parker in college. Like, name me the one dude he's dominated with it. He don't like throwing to the wide receivers. Give him tight ends. Even when the man was in the Pro Bowl last year, he was hitting tight ends all day. He didn't want to throw the ball to Tyreek Hill. He wanted to throw it to the tight ends. Get the boy some tight ends.
This is a losing formula. I just don't think you can make this.
Trade for Devontae Parker. Do it.
You might as well go all in on this little formula you got here because that's the best chance you got. If you try to change it all up to get the ball to Allen Robinson,
they gotta do something. They gotta score 3 points in the game.
Yeah, I mean, they can't, again, every single Lamar playoff loss looks the same. It always looks like this, which is like helpless offense.
My point is,
so y'all just want Allen Robinson to be the one out there getting picked on?
Well, whatever it is, at least it's different, right? I mean, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. I think they can't keep doing this.
The problem in this game was the offensive line was getting murdered as well.
Okay, that was a problem, but like Lamar Jackson is a mobile quarterback. Okay, he should be able to avoid the rush. Step up in the pocket.
He has suspect pocket sense. Sometimes he's.
I know, and again, that's a problem for him.
We know this is the issue, but if you have Ronnie Stanley in there, you have a good center in there, you get the run game going with some tight ends going. Maybe you can score enough points to beat the Bills. Maybe you get some favorable matchups in the playoffs. Maybe you get there. But if you put all that money in Allen Robinson, what's going to happen when the offensive line get leaky again? You ain't going to get the ball to Allen Robinson. What's going to happen when you try to get the run game going and Jerry Hughes out there looking like Myles Garrett daddy? Like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Not a damn thing. It's not changing because Allen Robinson has never once in his life won somebody a game by himself.
Wait till Quincy sees some Allen Robinson film. His eyes are going to be open.
I've watched him in Jacksonville.
The Jaguars go to the playoffs. Allen Robinson.
Yes. Yeah, he was on that team.
Best defense in the NFL.
Didn't the Jaguars not go to the playoffs?
That's the thing about this. How much better could the Ravens defense have played in this game? I mean, I know Josh Allen was absolute trash in the game. It was absolute trash. But the Ravens defense played well. The fact that Lamar and Robinson can only get 3 points is a real error.
One error.
All right, score 10 points, lose by 10. Sorry, Allen Robinson.
What did Allen Robinson do? What did he do, sir?
I'm just trying to tell Ray. I'm trying to help Raven fans. I'm trying to help because I want to play on the AFC Championship game one day. Y'all ain't never gonna make it if y'all do things like sign Allen Robinson for $15 million a year. We gonna always see y'all.
We're over 2 hours.
All right, my bad.
We gotta wrap this thing up. We're good. It's obviously a lively conversation.
Let me let it go on Allen Robinson. All right, man.
That's not gonna let it go. This is lasting. This is a new meme for the show. It's gonna last all offseason. We might need to start every show with just one highlight.
Robinson shirts coming.
Yeah, just the one play. Send in your favorite Allen Robinson plays.
I've never heard anybody talk about Allen Robinson until this show. Like, he's just always been like a decent receiver on the team. And then now people are like Allen Robinson, like he's Mike Evans. Like he's Mike Evans.
Well, he's on that level. Yeah, I'll put him on the level of Mike Evans. Yes.
I wouldn't say he's Mike Evans, but
Mike Evans is overrated. Mike Evans is not who Mike Evans thinks. Mike Evans is not as good.
Mike Evans is underrated.
Mike Evans is overrated. No, I think Mike Evans is overrated.
I think he's underrated.
I'll pick Evans over Robinson.
All right, man.
Let's keep going here.
Let's keep going, man. Let's just
Misfit Culture TV, $5 super chat says, bro, I gotta have you all on my podcast. Love this energy. Who wants in? I'm in. Plus, is Allen Robinson looking?
No, I'm not coming on now.
Favorite wideout.
I'm not coming on now, bro.
Misfit, just let us know how you feel about Allen Robinson, and then Quincy will let you know if he's
Allen Robinson.
I just pray somehow Allen Robinson
like he Brandon Marshall. Like this Allen Robinson is prime. Have you lost your mind, Allen Robinson? Like,
hey, listen, you want a hot chat? Chris Godwin is a better wide receiver than Mike Evans. That's a fact.
You want a hotter chat? Both of them are better. All three of the Bucks wide receivers are much better than Allen Robinson. Yeah, I said it. Since Allen Robinson in the top 10 now? Are you kidding me?
Allen Robinson's like a top.
We ain't talking about Allen Robinson all year. We've done how many of these shows? 60 shows throughout the year. We have not mentioned this man once.
He's on the Bears. He's irrelevant.
Never had to. He's in the NFL.
Gotta change the show.
No. We've been talking about the Ravens' issues all year with wide receivers. All year with wide receivers. Not once have any of y'all said anything about Allen Robinson.
Before you wrap up,
we out here talking about Allen Robinson.
Somebody said it here. The other guy he was on the trading market that the Ravens could use, and I think this will go to Quincy's, is Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz is a guy that was on the trading market. He could potentially be a guy that the Ravens target because that will give us the 2 tight end sets. To be fair to Quincy, I do agree that you're going to overpay for Robinson's production. The thing is that also to agree with Tony here, the definition is that is keep doing the same thing, and you have to do something different. And is it Allen Robinson? I'm not sure. I'm okay. Look, I'm okay with not getting Allen Robinson. Try to get a guy like AJ Green and try to get a guy like Ertz. Bring both of them. They're older. They're going to be cheaper. And then have those two guys. That's going to be an upgrade on your offense and go with that. Now, the big thing for me with Q is Allen Robinson. He is a great receiver. Is he the answer in Baltimore?
Ranked by the NFL players in the top 100 as number 31.
Last
he's
season?
not last season. This was 2016. This was after he went off.
Okay.
Yeah, they also said Miles is like number 55 in that ranking. I'm not buying it.
True fact. Listen, he was due, but he didn't. What did he do? All right, let's wrap this thing up here. Sonny, let people know where they can find your work.
SCG Sport everywhere. IG, Facebook. Also, you can find SCG Sport on Twitter, sending videos to Quincy about Allen Robinson.
I hope y'all sign him. I hope y'all do.
I hope he ends up on the Browns somehow.
I hope we do. That's going to be an amazing show.
He needs to be a Brown. I need him to be a Brown now.
I need him to be a Brown. I want to see. I want to see.
I want to see Quincy have to like.
Do we need another wide receiver who can't beat man? Do we need another wide receiver? We got
Is Allen Robinson better than OBJ?
Yes, he is. He's definitely better than OBJ.
Is he better than OBJ?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, Ace, let people know where they can find your work.
He's going to be more expensive than OBJ.
AFC North. AFC North Talk. You can catch me on Twitter at New Stripe City.
Quincy, what about you? Where can people find your work?
Find me talking all this garbage about Allen Robinson or what? Talking about should we talk? What's the cap number realistically for Allen Robinson? Is it $16-17 million a year when the cap's going down $25 million? By the way, cap's going down this year, right?
How much better is Allen Robinson?
Allen Robinson's going to get in the 20s. I would guess Allen Robinson gets no less than $20 million.
All right, man. Any team that signs Allen Robinson to a $20 million a year cap situation, they're not going to the playoffs. They're gonna regress. No. So the Ravens aren't doing that. Eric DeCosta's not that dumb. He's not out here with y'all thinking that Allen Robinson is going to be. That's what you're making right now.
No,
they're saying that he's expected. Over the cap says his valuation is $16 million a year.
That's kind of reasonable, but it feels ridiculous. Yeah, it's going to be like 18, 19 because there's going to be some other team that's going to talk themselves into these PFF grades, thinking Allen Robinson's a top 10 wide receiver. Well, we never talked about him as a top 10 wide receiver.
He might be top
ever.
15, no?
Ever.
He might be top 15.
He's a good receiver on a bad team. And what happens when you're a good receiver on a bad team? You just benefited from a ton of garbage time. Ask Terrell Pryor. Ask Josh Gordon. Ask all these dudes who had 1,000 yards with the Browns. They ain't never did nothing outside of Cleveland once they got on better teams. But again, please, sign Allen Robinson. And when they do, you can find me laughing all season long when the Ravens plateau again and lose in the first round again because they signed $15 million for Allen Robinson like I told them not to do. You can find this victory lap on youtube.com/Quincy Carrier. And if you want to see me get all the way Hill Quincy with it, you can follow me on Twitter because it's going to get vicious. Let Allen Robinson drop one pass next year. Let Allen Robinson have a negative yard game. Let Allen Robinson go out there and look like Dante Moncrief out there. Big body. That's the guy the Ravens could get, Dante Moncrief, right? Because we just signed anybody to $15 million a year like he's a top 10 wide receiver.
My God,
Dante.
Talking about Allen Robinson. I guess I don't like bad wide receivers because that seems to be a ticking point with me. Pookie Brown, Allen Robinson, these mediocre wide receivers on the Ravens, I guess so. But even Pookie Brown played out of Pookie Brown, so let me give Pookie his credit. But Allen Robinson for $15 million, I hope the Ravens do some stupid stuff like that. Let that offensive line get leaky. Let them balls get snapped over Lamar's head. See where you going to throw the ball to after that. All right, yeah. Sign Allen Robinson. I would love it.
All right. Let's
where's Allen Robinson ever won anybody any? Okay, yeah. Let me stop with Allen.
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter at Steeler Country. You can follow me. You can follow me there. You can also find me on Locked On Steelers every Tuesday with my friend Chris Carter. You can find me here Tuesday and Thursday. Actually, no, just Tuesdays now, 5:45 going forward. And you can also find me on my new YouTube channel, Steeler Country with Tony Serino. Search for that. First video went up on Monday, all about Randy Fichtner. What went wrong with that offense? So check that out. And we'll be back with you guys next week for more AFC North Talk.
Have you ever?
Are you listening? Damn.